That was a bad call, though.
And nobody betting on the Giants, man.
All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another Juices Loose podcast. I think this is just gonna be us four. I haven't seen Robert in the chat all day, so I think he was sick. Or maybe that was last week. I don't know if he'll be here. Maybe he will. But yeah.
Wasn't he
So
here last week?
He was.
yeah. But yeah, we're just gonna get started. I thought I would check in with Terrell and see if you played any more Frontiers. If you got anything to add, or
Yeah, I was playing. Actually, I was playing it a little earlier today, before I grabbed food and got ready for the podcast. I'm about somewhere between 10 and 15 hours, I think, is where I'm at. I have to check the specifics.
did you make it to another world or whatever?
Yeah. So the way the progression seems to work is, you save one of Sonic's friends, and then you go on to the next island to find his other friends. But like you get Supersonic like super early in the game. Like you do like a full boss fight, then you get Supersonic, and then he's like, all right, I'm gonna go to the next island. Then he gets knocked out of Supersonic, and you have to refine the Chaos Emeralds, which I think is gonna be a little redundant, but I don't mind it because you're in a new island and you're exploring. And so if you had Supersonic, it kind of makes it a joke and it doesn't plot wise make sense. Fucking writing is great. I'm surprised how grounded they decided to make everybody. But knowing this is from the comic writer, that kind of it's not too shocking. Exploration is still very fun. Even though the platforms floating in air don't really bother me anymore. The only thing I really hate is the weird fucking control shift between exploring the area and then jumping into a fucking level. That shit still drives me nuts. Exploration's still great. They've introduced a couple of new enemy types and bosses, some of which I'm half and half on. Some of them just take too fucking long for them to be random enemy. It's like, imagine if you had like 3 or 4 enemies that were like the Lionels in Breath of the Wild that you could just run across at any time. They took like a good like minute to like at least a couple minutes to consistently fight. That's how some of these little mini bosses you run into, like, and when some of them will trap you in the area, so you can't just run away from them. And I guess the only other complaint is that for some of those things, when they show up, the camera does this thing where it shifts to the enemy when you're in the range. I'm like, oh shit, it's the Titan or whatever the fuck, and then the camera shifts, and then it'll lock to that character. So even if you plan to run away, your camera's still this way. So I'm like running and I don't know where I'm going because I'm waiting to get out of the range for the fucking enemy. I'm like, that fucking sucks. But you get more abilities. I like the combat a lot, and the exploration is still generally fun. I just like experimenting. I've gotten a lot more comfortable. With Sonic games, once you know how your controls are, which depending on the game takes longer than others, you get more comfortable about like doing certain shit. I've gotten a lot more reckless and being able to pull off like these cool tricks and shit. So the core game I'm still enjoying. There's a couple of issues with fucking possible redundancy issues and stupid shit with some of the mini bosses, but that's about it. I'm still enjoying it.
So top 3 game of the year then.
I don't know. I'm actually very conflicted. Especially Bayonetta is also still. I actually went back and replayed a couple levels of Bayonetta the other night, so I'm very conflicted. I don't know where I'm at. It's like none of these games are perfect.
Is Arceus in that mix or not? Not to spoil your list, but I'm just curious.
It's gonna probably be the bottom half of the list if I had to say anything. And then Xenoblade, I got to one of the bigger twists, and then I was playing it more Saturday, and I'm like, fuck, this might have gone up a couple levels. Like,
I knew it would when you got to a certain point.
It's
when a certain character gets shown
and I was like, no, why do y'all do this? So now I'm like, fuck. So I get off work, Wednesday's my last day, and then I'm off for like a week and a half. I'm going to see how much I can get through, and then ask me next week. Next week I'll have a clear answer. Because
if I ask you right after the end, I think you're going to be pretty high on it. So
really?
Yeah. Let's just say there's a photograph.
Yeah, stop.
Let's just say you'll love.
Relax.
In chat.
But all right, so I gotta ask. I was listening to Sandstorm's podcast. We're talking about Switch, possibly Switch 2, which we'll talk about later. But something I've been thinking about like pretty much all day while I was at work. And last night I watched Switch Up's video, like the 11 best Switch ports currently, since it launched. And I watched it on the big screen, well, my 65-inch OLED, and I was like, man, even the best ports, if you look at them, I mean, on my phone, they always look good. On my computer screen, on smaller, they look fine. But, on 65-inch, I was like, Alien Isolation might be the only one I would classify as looking good, just in general, not as a Switch game, just in general. But I'm curious, so I'm going to share my screen. I don't know. Obviously, it's going to be hard through compression, YouTube, and then also through...
why even do it? Oof.
But... if you can, for those, especially T, you have The Witcher. I'm wondering, how does The Witcher 3 on Switch compare to like a game like Xenoblade, Chronicles 3 or 2? Like, because in my mind, I was like, oh, easily Xenoblade Chronicles 3 destroys The Witcher 3 on Switch.
Yeah, that looks really muddy.
But especially when I saw that video last night.
I don't know what you mean, because obviously they're completely different art styles.
I know, but just... I'm talking about.
That's what makes it hard to compare to me.
Just like if you saw this, say, "Hey, this is a good looking image," versus this isn't a good looking image.
Oh,
or
well, Xenoblade wins that. It look like doo doo.
Yeah,
but
this
the
really
problem with Witcher. The problem I think
let me
that
go
happens
to
with Witcher is that Witcher you have something better to compare it to. Like you've seen that bitch on PC or on like other consoles, so you know what a good what it would look like.
And it was hard.
Xenoblade.
It's hard to find gameplay of this. There's so many cutscenes in these playthroughs. It's hard.
Was No Man's Sky one of them?
No Man's Sky looks terrible.
Okay, I haven't seen it
on the 65-inch. I thought it looked alright. Seeing it on my phone when I saw a video on it, the Switch version, and then I saw it. I mean, it literally almost has no textures. Like there's a lot of like damn near solid colors and just like speckly pixels making up a texture.
See, here's my thing. When Xenoblade, see the ground and whatnot, that's the more quote unquote realistic kind of look.
Yeah, the characters are.
When it comes to that, I think Witcher wins with the more quote unquote realistic stuff, like the ground and grass and.
See, I mean, this is a pretty low quality video. I think Xenoblade has some really good texture quality.
Yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah,
like,
I'm just saying
there's some bad spots. Don't get me wrong, but
I'm just saying overall looks better. I'm not saying it's bad.
I would say overall, this is a good image, or this just looking at the visual imagery, not like the art style and stuff. I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks far superior.
Yeah, I'm going to take that back. Never mind. I'm taking it
does
back.
Does the grass even move in Witcher 3? Or
Witcher's all moving.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Trees and everything.
There's a destination to this. It's not just random. I thought I'd bring this up, but The Witcher 3, first time I saw it, I was like, holy shit, like the storms, the trees blowing. Come on, Switch Up, show some fucking gameplay. The trees are always blowing and there's a lot of foliage.
It's 2 leaves, but a lawn.
Yeah. So the interesting thing, when I was thinking about this, I realized like Xenoblade doesn't have like trees, like they have a big tree or something, or like to actually have.
It doesn't have
like
just, like,
trees,
a bunch of trees
and bushes. It doesn't have it, and I didn't. I never thought about that once while I was playing the game, but after I realized it, it's hard for me to not think about it. Look at all the trees here in the Witcher.
Wow.
So
Witcher's full of trees.
That's crazy. Now that you think about it, even in the forest.
Because you were talking about Switch lead platform. That's another place I want to get to. Because I don't think The Witcher 4, if the Switch was a lead platform, was going to look much better than this. Because they're going to want to have trees. They're going to want to still feel like The Witcher versus, let me cut back to Xenoblade. And it's weird. I'd never thought about this once. There's a forest area, but there's not like a bunch of trees, a bunch of fucking trees with foliage blowing in the wind. It's just like there's a lot of rocks.
I think I know what you're getting at. I honestly think because Witcher 3 is a port, you get that stuff with the trees and all that. If Witcher was built from ground up on the Switch,
would that just mean they wouldn't have a lot of
we'd
trees?
probably like Xenoblade. You wouldn't have no damn trees.
Right.
They'd be like, we ain't doing this shit.
Is that necessarily true? Because in
I don't know.
2017 we got Zelda, and
Yeah,
Zelda's
but
got a
Zelda
bunch of
has
trees.
fucking the same tree, almost a few different variations, but it's just, I mean, it's your typical cel-shaded looking tree shape. I mean, they look great in the game, but that's the other question. If they, can you give me an example of a Switch game built from the ground up that went for a realistic art style?
We don't have that many, do we?
No.
That were built ground up for the Switch.
I think Xenoblade is the closest as far as the environments.
Yeah.
Built
Actually, I'm trying to think.
No, we don't.
Yeah.
I can't think of one.
Yeah. I think they kind of realized that like the realistic style is anime art style. You can kind of bullshit it enough to where it won't be. It's nowhere near as distracting. Xenoblade is one of the few titles that actively went out of its way to try to like.
But I say Breath of the Wild excels with the flowing grass and the individual blades, and the individual blades have like shadows and are affected by light.
That's absolutely gorgeous.
But even still, there's not a whole lot of. It's not like The Witcher 3 dense.
You would have to go
forest.
to the. You had to go.
I mean, that's a pretty. I mean, I love. Don't get me wrong. It's my favorite game of all time. I love the art style. That's a very simplistic tree. Almost looks like a 2D. A 2D texture until you get close. Probably is.
So you probably got like maybe 6 or 7 different variations of trees. You got like cuttable
I mean,
trees.
they got big trunks, smaller trunks, but the actual, if you look at the actual shape from a distance, they're all very similar.
And if you go to the forest in The Witcher, a bunch of very different looking.
Yes, I mean, but still, trees. I mean, yeah, this isn't the woodsy area, but it's still almost like Xenoblade where there's a lot less trees. So, I guess we'll just have to play hypothetical. What you think? Do you think if The Witcher 4 set the Switch as a lead platform, and they gotta continue with the aesthetics set by the previous games, they're not going to detract.
Right.
Do you think it would look much better than the Witcher 3 port? Because I don't think it would, unless they went their route of not having a lot of foliage and shit, and then they added that for the other versions.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Who is working on said game?
Well, if you're saying lead platform, then that means CG Projekt Red is making the Switch version first, and then they're gonna have to do a whole lot of work to the other versions to add all the things they can't put in the Switch version.
Who made the Switch version?
I'm not sure.
Wasn't it Panic Button?
Panic Button was the one that worked on.
I don't think they did The Witcher.
They did the port.
Yeah, they did the port.
Yeah, they did the port.
I don't think Panic Button did.
Dude, who did? Are you sure?
No, it was Saber. It was
Saber.
Saber.
Yeah.
Oh, Saber. Okay, gotcha.
But I don't think CG Projekt Red could have did anything different. I mean, this is
when Saber did it, they pulled out a whole bunch of stuff that was like unnecessary. So,
well, they had to pull out some level detail distance stuff that didn't really.
I mean, like they had removed a bunch of junk code that was in the game in the first place. To the point where
they did that for this game. I know they did that for not Alien Isolation.
Did that for
Warframe?
Near
Warframe
they did that
too. Well, Panic Button did it for Warframe, but
Near they had to fix They fixed a problem. The port company fixed a problem inherent in the game that still I don't think was applied to the PS4 version.
Didn't Ori do something similar when they ported?
Well, they had to restructure their whole rendering pipeline basically, which helped improve the other versions.
Okay, so if both of them are working hand in hand,
I just don't know what else you can do.
You might get a change in texture style, but I don't know if you're gonna.
Unless they change the art style, I don't think.
Yeah, I don't know if you're gonna get.
The major problem as far as third parties making Switch the lead platform, it's like you put all that work in. Will people buy that version?
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest problem. I think that's
the problem is it's the proposition because you're like, hey, do you want to get this version on your handheld or do you want to get like this high end 4K?
When I shrink this down, it looks so much better.
There was a time where okay, well that was a better proposition as far as I can play this on the go. Now you got Iron Neos out there, you got Steam Decks, you got all this competition now, and people are like, well, I can play my game on the go and still have it look like a console game, have it still look like close to the high version. So
I think the main thing is
that proposition
the
is
Switch's
anymore.
install base turn into equal profit for
Right.
the investment.
Well, the other thing which I
How
started
many
to
copies
say,
did Witcher sell? I mean, it obviously was years later than the first.
Yeah, the problem is that's the other thing you got to think about. It would be released day and date with the other versions
Right.
versus like the weird delays we've gotten with a lot of these games, like Nier and
Well,
fucking.
there was no Switch when Witcher came out, so it wouldn't matter anyway. But
Yeah, but like still, like even the ones we've gotten recently, like even the Dooms and
Right,
that stuff,
right.
that was late as well. Like
the Hogwarts Legacy.
that's what started. We're talking about Hogwarts.
Sometime,
man.
But
Hey,
so let me
man.
tell you what I think would happen. So let's say, all right, we'll make the Switch lead platform. So no matter what, unless they want to be a Monster Hunter Rise, which is on the screen,
Look at that. That looks
and
good.
do
bro.
nothing else
Yeah.
but just up the resolution in a few settings and release that game, then I think objectively speaking, the Switch would be holding back The Witcher 4 in that
Well, yeah, obviously.
because this game they did almost nothing for the PC version except it runs at a higher resolution with some better AA and maybe some motion blur and stuff. They didn't. This is what happens when you just take the Switch, a game designed for Switch, and bump up the settings.
4K 60 though, baby.
So what that tells me, using this example, is that CG Projekt Red would have to make Switch the lead platform, but then they'd have to have a full, maybe even the equal sized team dedicated to adding all the stuff they'd want in a Witcher 4 game, from like trees to advanced lighting. All that stuff would have to be added on, almost like the next gen patch for The Witcher 3. That a lot of work had to go into adding all that stuff, so it almost increased the development cost versus paying somebody to port it. I'm not sure, but it feels like you would almost have to start with this base game, and add all these, like, let's say the Switch version, they decide to scale the trees way back to help with visuals and performance. So then the other versions they have a team adding stuff,
And I mean, and the way this game is designed, they wouldn't have designed it this way if Switch wasn't a lead platform, as far as how the world is together and how, like, it would have been completely different, I would think.
So let's look at Monster Hunter Worlds.
Which looks great. Well, Monster Hunter Rise looks great. You complain about it, but
I think it looks fine. I don't think it looks as good as people made it out to be. But I don't think you can just say they should be the lead. Switch was the lead platform. You'd automatically have better looking games. I don't
know about what.
Yeah, what is the?
I think you might have a
the
better
argument?
performance level games. Maybe not better looking.
Yeah,
I
but
think
then
the performance would be better.
do you agree that it would come at the sacrifice of the other versions unless they had another team doing a whole lot of work adding a bunch of stuff?
And that's what the other fanboys are crying about right now. Oh, the last gen is holding PS4s and version and the original or Xbox One version, and they're holding back the new consoles. I listen to the podcast. That's all they cry about.
There ain't no fucking Monster Hunter World shit on here.
That's all they cry about. It's like, do you care about games, bro? Like,
No, they don't.
all they care about is
No, they don't.
you're holding back my next
Come
gen
on, man.
console.
It's about the podcast and the tips, man. Pay the
But-
bills. Pay the bills.
God, why is there freaking? I couldn't find really any, like.
I want some maple syrup.
There just
y'all.
wasn't like a bunch of Monster Hunter World's PC footage, so this is the PS4 version running on PS5, which isn't going to be the same comparison, but because the PC version. All right. Oh, this is like create a character and everything. Jesus Christ.
Oh man.
Yeah,
really?
you're gonna have to.
There wasn't a lot of video
Get
choices.
that shit out your video, man. Why people don't want to watch that shit?
Well, remember when this around the time.
So this is the PS4 version running on PS5
maybe, yeah.
with like no enhancements. It's just basically the PS4 version. I was hoping to find like a PC version. Come on.
Yeah, you gotta realize Monster Hunter is kind of a slow game.
It's a slow game.
But
man.
I would
It's a slow
say
game until
I
you
would
get
say
to the fight.
Yeah.
I'd have to see
I
them
mean,
side by side.
it's a denser world, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sorry, I couldn't find a better video with like them
it's-
just
I mean,
out
it's
fighting a
fine.
monster.
Well, I have to take that statement I made earlier back because Monster Hunter World is not too dissimilar as far as the world structure. And
No, but I
Rise.
mean, just the
It just
the
looks
leaves in that
denser
foliage.
because-
This to me, this
Yeah.
this is the
There's bigger
PS4
areas
version, and it
and-
looks better than the PC version of Rise. That's how I feel. Maybe not in. I'd say just overall.
Oh
I'd
yeah,
say.
yeah, it does.
So
Yeah.
that's what my thesis is. If you have the Switch be the lead platform for like,
You end up
Witcher
with Monster Hunter
4,
Rise
that
PC.
obviously it's going to be Switch 2 by the time Witcher 4 would even come out. But let's say 2 years
Yeah,
ago, 3 years ago, a developer's like, all right, we'll make it the lead I mean, what is it going to gain over the port other than day and date would hopefully be a thing? Versus how much more work they'd have to do to the other versions to not have a Hunter Rise situation where it just looks like a Switch game in HD, in 1080.
I felt like most people would end up just doing that.
Yeah, and then I mean, is that really?
Yeah.
Is that-
I just at the end of the day, unless unless Switch like whatever Nintendo's console, the new console comes out 2 years, 3 years earlier than everybody else, and it sold 60 million units, it's never going to be a lead platform.
No. For
Uh,
certain, especially
if
for
the power isn't there, especially if the power is not there to match the other consoles.
Do you think? All right, here's my question. Do you think it would if the power was there, though?
I think I think it worked. The power.
I
is there.
don't think so.
If it was x86, yeah, for sure.
I don't
And
think
it's
it would.
if the Switch,
You're telling me if Nintendo made a console, it came out, a few years earlier than everybody else, let's say 2.5 years or so earlier, they sold 60 million units of that shit. You don't think that would be the lead platform? I do.
Okay, at 60 million, I think
Yeah,
they would bite
with
the
a
bullet
big-
and say yes, but in a realistic
But at the
setting,
same time,
would
would
say
it
no.
even have to be?
We're still
Because
about that in 3 years.
I don't even know that it'd have to be lead platform, because if it should just have a competent version anyway, and whether it's lead platform or not, they should be able to.
Well,
There's only a
the
few
problem-
examples of multiplats really running poorly. On
yeah,
like
nowadays-
the Xbox One versus the PS4, other than the usual drop in resolution and stuff. So I wouldn't expect there to be a need to make it the lead platform.
The
Yeah.
lead platform is PC because that's
So-
what they built
Yeah.
these shits on.
Pretty much.
Yeah, true.
Until Nintendo
True.
does x86 and makes it easier. This conversation, is kind of moot.
Yeah, if they make their version of the Cell processor that's super powerful but super difficult to
Right.
program for, and it's completely different architecture, you're gonna have a
Look what
similar.
happened to them.
You'll have a
Yeah.
problem, but it won't be as bad because they'll be able to brute force fix some of the issues. Like you'd be able to just get the game. Like you wouldn't need the cloud version of Resident Evil 2 remake.
Yeah.
You just have, whether it would take a little extra or not, the end result would still be, and maybe it would have some issues because of the different architecture they couldn't fix. Maybe it would actually create some issues like Zombie U ported to PS4 had all kinds of weird frame rate drops that the Wii U
Yep.
version didn't have. So it's like that was just a bad port. We know what bad ports can do, but
Yeah.
So let me
Ubisoft
ask a
is
question
known for
then.
bad ports.
Let me ask a question then, because Donnie kind of
oh, I forgot to check the chat. Sorry. Go ahead.
kind of threw this in here. He said, "Imagine if GameCube was the lead platform back then." So let me ask you a question: If we had next generation, let's say Sony and Microsoft cut their losses and they're starting the same time Nintendo does, and we end up with triplets for whatever reason,
Yeah, it would suck,
Nvidia
but
is
yeah.
just as I know. Who do you think they would make lead platform?
PlayStation.
I think PlayStation initially, but Xbox 360 took over as lead platform when that was the better.
It came out a
No,
year
no,
earlier.
And it was
no,
the-
no,
Yeah, but
the
it was
Xbox
just because it
first.
was the Cell processor was such a pain in the dick. They just made the
Right.
Xbox was easier. That's why Sony with the PS4 listened to developers,
360 was Power PC, wasn't
because Microsoft
Yeah.
listened to developers on what they wanted. They doubled the RAM at the last second and the 360, and that was the lead platform. And the PS3 was such a weird, funky architecture no one liked that you had a bunch of bad ports.
Right.
But I think honestly, I know the Series X and PS5 aren't that far apart. I think it's like 20 to 25. Not the
They're
Series X, but
not.
the
I would.
series consoles, the combined
I,
S
will-
and
I
X.
will always. Unfortunately for me, I've recognized, and this is just my opinion. I think they always will default to Sony as the
Yeah.
lead platform,
Yep.
unless
Until
Sony
completely
thought.
falls on their
Well,
face.
yeah, I feel like Sony is their default because Sony's the good mix between the Japanese centric like Nintendo, but still like indulges in Western ideas like Xbox lives in, right? And I feel like that's their middle ground when it comes to like putting on a console. Like everything, like you notice there are things that don't come to Xbox. Like I don't know if y'all heard the recent thing about
Oh, yeah.
how the Final Fantasy Pixel games aren't coming to Xbox. They don't really get the Japanese titles.
Why
Whereas
wouldn't
the
they?
whereas like whereas yeah, fuck you. Whereas Nintendo doesn't necessarily get all the new realistic games
Western
that
stuff.
yeah, the Western stuff.
Yeah.
PS4 is the middle ground. So I think every time if we were to get a triplet situation, it's they're defaulting on PlayStation unless they just fuck
And I
up their
also,
console.
I don't know if I didn't want to get into the whole other topic just yet, but I think, and I mean, this is just 100% speculation on my part. I do feel developers, they're creating these games. There's a lot of artists making these games. Yeah, there's some big corporate shit out there that, that they don't care as much about, but I feel like they want their artistic design to be shown in the best light. And if the PS4 was the way for their final product to look its best, I think that alone would motivate some people, instead of sacrificing, image quality or whatever to the Xbox One. Hey, this it looks better and can perform better on the PlayStation 4. That's what we're gonna
Yeah.
pick. Obviously, the
It's
sales too.
Well, I mean, you
it's
could say
it's
that, but by that logic, then why doesn't the Series X isn't considered the lead platform? I guess in this current gen,
Yeah, that's
'cause
why I say it's a speculation. I
yeah,
think,
because Microsoft is getting his ass handed to it in a lot of different regions.
but
It does
also,
well here. It does well a little okay in UK, but everywhere else, Sony owns all those markets.
and the
So
tides have kind of turned. Year one, PS5 games were outperforming frame rate, even some instances frame rate and resolution. But now that's changed.
well,
Almost every game, the
I
Series
think
X has an advantage in performance and image quality. Like Elden Ring, for example, the best version is the Series X.
here's the thing: Nintendo had a chance to be that lead platform, right? If the N64 just came out on goddamn CDs,
Mhm.
if it wasn't, you don't think N64 would have been a lead platform that generation?
After
Hell
Super
yes, it would
Nintendo,
have. Yeah.
but that's how quickly it can
So
change. That's how quickly it
right,
can change.
that's how
'Cause
quickly it can change.
Super NES, there was a lot of split development games where
Yeah,
two completely different games come
two
out with the
different
same
versions.
name.
Yeah.
But as far as like the Super
You think
Nintendo,
developers like doing that? They didn't like doing that shit. We like talking about it. It's like, oh,
hmm
remember when there was this version and that? Developers didn't like that shit.
Yeah, because
They
it was
wanted
more
to
money.
make right. It took
and
them time and money to do that.
there was instances where the Genesis version had better sound overall. I mean, I watched
Yep.
enough of the
Which
game
doesn't make sense,
Console Wars.
but they obviously spent
Yeah,
more
I
time on
agree. Like
the audio.
but if to me, because I'm not like an artist that I like uh, get paid to make stuff, but I grew up every year of school. I was always in art class until senior year art class. I didn't take it further than that, but I was a pretty good artist. I could draw pretty good, paint. I used this example a long time ago, and of course the certain people like to debate and they bring up these dumb counter arguments. But if I'm either a work of art I've done or if I've bought like this amazing photograph, like a black and white photo is amazing, am I gonna put that photograph behind some dingy ass old glass picture frame, or am I gonna buy some crystal clear brand new frame so I can fully appreciate that art I just paid for? Like to me that, of course, someone found, well, I like vintage frames better than new cheap. I'm like, dude, that's not the point. The point is, if you're gonna have a nice piece of art, you're not gonna put it behind some dirty old foggy glass. You're gonna put it behind crystal clear glass. Otherwise, you aren't gonna spend hundreds or thousands of dollars. I feel like for me, if I was an artist in the lead game, I would want it to look its best, but also be on every platform too. I understand the business side of it, but I would, for me personally, because I do like, I've always been more of a videophile. I'd want it to look its best.
Yeah.
And just like I brought this up, the N64, what was the target renders for Mario 64? It was way beyond what the final product was.
Yeah.
It was like almost GameCube level visuals was like the target render of Mario 64. And
the N64 itself was supposed to be much more powerful than it ended up being when it came to market.
And I know it blew us all away, but I wonder the guy who designed that higher quality Mario, when he saw the zoomed out super low quality Mario that we now know in the All-Star collection, because it's in 1080 now. It doesn't, you can see it looks really bad. I don't know, I've just kind of always looked at it a little differently, I think. But at the same time, getting back to the whole lead platform thing,
it's similar. 3DS is the same, because when people emulate 3DS, they can get really nice visuals out of it, because it was, it's constrained on the 3DS hardware, but it was built for like higher resolutions and stuff. So
yeah, they weren't designing 3DS games in 200 resolution or whatever it is. They're making the games on computers.
No, it's 240
at I would guess 480, 720. I mean, when they're creating the assets, they're not creating them blurry with jagged edges. They're creating cleaner things, and then they have to downscale it. The in-game engine, renders it, and you have level detail. What are they, LODs? Distances.
Yeah, there's a reason emulators can make these games look a lot better.
Just adding just a higher resolution in AA can like greatly improve like Wii U games, because Wii U didn't use AA. That's how Nintendo got away. That's the other thing I want to talk about, is the whole
they get that 60 frames,
60 frames per second generation of the Wii U. There's no AA. People are trying, like on Switch, they're utilizing it in a lot of games. Like Breath of the Wild has a solution for AA. That's a big hit to performance. I mean, you basically have to give up on 60 to have a lower powered system and say we're going to go all in with image quality and stuff. So yeah, you're right. If you take a 3DS game, you can, it looks way better than it would, except if you blew it up on like a giant screen, then you're gonna see it's gonna look pretty terrible. But cause, I mean, that was proven with Metroid Prime on Dolphin. You didn't have to do anything. You just bump up the native resolution and it looked amazing because the texture work was all high quality. They put in the work. You didn't fully see it on the GameCube, but it was there. And so anyway, any other thoughts on the lead platform discussion? I mean, it's all hypothetical. We can't prove it. I just really feel like I don't think you'd end up with that much of a different result for.
Yeah, I don't think, like, if Nintendo didn't falter during the N64 generation, I think GameCube definitely would have been a lead platform, because the N64 would have, let's say, sold twice, maybe even 3 times what it sold. And then you're going into the GameCube, which was a fucking beast, that console.
It was. That was a hell of a console. I mean, hardware-wise.
Yeah.
We don't want to talk about the library.
Oh, no.
God.
Oh, no. It had a good library.
Why you
It just didn't hit for me. I'm sorry. It just didn't hit for me.
Well.
It's not a winner in his eyes, man.
Let's not do it.
Look at it, Johnny. I can see the venom on your tongue. The fuck?
I guess we can jump into the Hogwarts thing, because this was something I don't honestly. I just don't care about this game. I love the Harry Potter movies. I've seen them each all the way. I mean, every movie at least 6 times. Maybe could be up to 8 or 9. I don't keep track like that, but
Greatest series ever.
Amazing film series. I played one game on Wii. I enjoyed it, but
my third favorite.
I just watched Hogwarts Legacy, and like I was like 5 minutes in with the broom riding, and I was like, honestly, I just don't care. So I just didn't watch anymore. Like, I just don't care. Maybe it's gonna be a great game. I'm gonna love it, but nothing about watching. I think it's the presentation. The people are annoying.
Yeah,
I'm not.
Yeah.
They're talking a lot, but what
I
I'm
hate these
seeing on
fuckers
screen,
talking, man.
what I've seen on screen isn't really getting me excited.
I honestly think they're not scripted at all because some of those guys are like,
Yeah.
see the fly? Did you see the
But
fly?
I wasn't really impressed with the flying on the broom. It's very slow. It forces you to the ground, which is, I guess, cool so you don't just miss everything.
Well,
But
I think it was exciting because here's a big new game that's going to come out day and day on Switch as well, and then that was just a really cool thing to see.
was it initially stated that? I thought it was always coming
It
later.
was.
No,
You know,
it was initially going to be day and date with all the other versions. And
So-
I was like, wow, that's cool.
The main, I mean,
It makes sense because fucking Switch is over 100 million
Yeah.
units sold. You should put it in overdrive and make sure that Switch version gets out at the same time, unless you want to cannibalize the goddamn sales. Because nobody is gonna wait for the Switch version for 4 or 5 whatever months it's gonna come out. So you're gonna hurt the sales of it by doing that.
Do you guys
If didn't do
remember
that,
a couple podcasts ago I was talking about, I don't know if it was Cyberpunk or Elden Ring, where I said just release the PS5, Xbox, PC version, then get the PS4, Xbox One versions right, release those. And that's exactly what they're doing with Hogwarts. They're keeping the February at this point. I feel like they're an unproven development team too.
how
it was
are you
Sony's fault. It was Sony's fault. It was Sony's
no.
fault.
Like, how are you going to emphasize the Xbox One and PS4 version over the Switch version? Like, I get it; those consoles sold, well, one of them did, sold 120 million units, being the PS4 version. But nobody's on their PS4 like that at this current state, time. Like most people, well, not most people, the energy anyway is on the PS5. Like, yeah, a lot of people still have PS4s, but if people were playing PlayStation, they're probably looking to get the PlayStation 5 version or something.
Robert's got a PS5, so he'll get it. But here's the thing I thought was interesting. I think this tells me that their development team is too strained, and I wouldn't even be too confident about that February. Basically, it's all hands on deck. Let's get out
February for what?
for Hogwarts. The
Yeah, it comes
PS5,
out February
Series X,
10th.
the PS5, Series X, and PC. They must be wrangling their whole teams. All right, we need. What was another game that did that? They're like, all right, we're bringing everybody in. Was that Doom Eternal or something? Some game. Like, we got to get everybody on deck. We're gonna release these 3 versions, or 4 if you count Series S. I'm thinking is included. And then once that's done, then the whole team can work on polishing the PS4, PS4 Pro, Xbox One X, and standard one. And then after that, all right, now we're all hands on deck to the Switch version. That tells me that these release dates they're sketchy. That I'm calling it right now. I'm saying the Switch is holiday 2023. I don't believe the July or whatever they said, because to me it feels like they're having to bring their teams in. Let's get these versions finished, then these versions, and then the Switch version.
Well, that's just the thing. You got to make 4 and 5 versions of your game, and that's
9
that's
versions.
insane.
So here's the thing. This game has been. When did we first hear about this game? Back in 2017. I want to say.
I want to say 2 years ago for me.
20. Oh no, it's been a while because it was a rumor for the longest time.
I think it was
and then
2018 when I remember hearing.
2018.
I think the actual announcement was like 2 years ago. I'm a lot.
So I want to say this game was originally, the way it looks at least, to me, the game was originally slated for PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in the first place. And then I think somewhere during that time they moved it over to the PlayStation 5. I think Sony obviously had their hand in it because they have a lot of exclusive content.
When the official reveal trailer
they paid for the
official
marketing
reveal
rights.
for Hogwarts Legacy with that name, the official reveal. What date do you think that was? You might have heard. I didn't know about it till the reveal.
For the name maybe, yeah. But
I can if I look back, 'cause I think
just
I
going off
covered it.
memory. What do you think because you said it was 2017. When do you think they actually revealed Hogwarts Legacy was a game coming out?
probably 2020.
Yeah, that was.
I'm
I
gonna
was gonna
say-
say it's probably more recent than.
I'm gonna say
September?
20
16th,
2019.
2020.
2020.
September
Okay, yeah.
16th, 20, just
that
over
makes
2
sense.
years. 31 million views, though.
Hmm.
People like their Harry Potter, man.
So it's been almost.
I've
we're
never
going into
been
3
excited
years.
for it for some weird reason, but yeah. So I think to me I think those release dates are. I'd be shocked if they launch. Maybe they'll hit the PS5, Series X, and PC, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're glitchy because this studio is
better not
new.
be.
This is a new studio they put together to make this game.
2020. Okay, so we talked about it, me and Vito on the channel. I think that was back when the some of that stuff got leaked. That was actually 4 years ago. So
It's
what is
probably
that?
in the work. It's probably been in
2019.
works for. It's probably been in
2018.
works
Yeah.
for a
2018, like I
while.
said, yeah.
Yeah.
That's
So
what I remember, the leak and all that kind of stuff.
yeah. So
Those-
I'm thinking.
It's
I'm
been in
thinking-
the works.
I'm thinking Sony was like, "Hey, we got a new system coming. These are the specs for that, and we're gonna put some money down on to make this happen."
That
And-
game, unfortunately, might be just too overly ambitious for what they were trying to do.
I just think because of that, I think because of and that may be a good thing and that may be a bad thing, but I think because Sony is like, hey, we want this for PlayStation 5 and this is our main platform, they're like, well, the easiest way to do this is probably to put them all in one basket instead of
That's weird because they want
Yeah.
third parties to do that, but yet they're releasing God of War and all this stuff still on PS4. Like, what the?
Well, that's
Like,
just a theory. I mean, I don't feel like there's as soon as when those consoles were out, were a month out when they revealed it. You think that if they were just going to put out Hogwarts Legacy and PS4, Xbox One, you think it would have been out sooner? Is that what you're suggesting?
I would
Definitely
argue
think
that.
it would,
Probably.
I definitely think it would be out sooner.
yeah,
They
but I
probably had
think-
to- they had to switch lead
And I
platform
think-
essentially.
No,
Yeah, and
I would
think
still.
I think the Switch.
I
would be
think
there,
PC
too.
was still always the lead platform as far as
and Switch
Really?
version was probably the last.
as
you
far
know,
as development. I don't think they were developing. Maybe they were developing specifically
Yeah.
for PS4. But what do you think they? Honestly, in a game like this, I don't think they had like. Maybe they had to make higher quality assets or something. I don't know.
Oh, I mean, it's pretty, but
It's a good
I
looking
mean,
game.
yeah, everything we've seen is, I would have to assume, is from the dev kit for a PlayStation 5. Just the way that they're the
Well, Sony
controllers
definitely
are showing
paid for
up.
the advertising rights.
Yeah, they paid for advertising.
I don't know.
Oh,
It could be the
PS4 being put
developer
really good.
wanted to
Ghost
make
of
sure they had.
Tsushima
Developer
was on
might have
PS4.
said, "Hey, we want to make sure we have at the time, next gen systems on there too,"
Yeah,
and obviously they. It's not like it's not coming to Series X that same day as the PS5 version. I mean, it's.
when is the PS4? Is the PS4 June or May?
I forget what they. I don't believe any of those dates will actually be hit, but
They have no idea.
they shouldn't even release date. They shouldn't even put a date.
Right.
They were
should
trying
say-
to. The problem is it generates hype to know that it's coming out but the problem is you can tell they weren't ready for it. They kind of
Yeah,
it
they
was like
put back
it was like
on already.
it was a statement for hoping that they could hit it.
Yeah.
And I think most people don't care about the PS4 and Xbox version.
Not
don't.
anymore, especially now
At this point, I don't think most people don't care.
well, especially now
Well-
because PS5 and Xbox Ones are getting easier and easier to get now. So
Right.
it's like we're not even dealing with the complaints with the shortage as much. I mean,
Right.
we still have issues, but you can not if you went right now, you could buy a
you
God
can
of
buy it
War.
online at least.
Yeah.
You might
Actually,
not
it was
see in the
sold
store.
out. I checked a couple of days ago. It was finally
Was
not
it?
available.
Yeah.
They might have got
It's-
it back though.
It's close to Christmas, so I get that. I think if it wasn't, because they were pretty readily available, just
For a
days
couple
ago.
weeks, yeah, you could definitely, if you wanted.
See,
one.
and the funny thing is I'm in agreement. I don't think the PS4 and the Xbox are relevant. The ironic thing, I told Juice this, is that like when I get it day and date, like day one is going to be on the PC, but I'm also going to get a copy of the Switch version, mostly for the kids, so they can be able to play. And as a grown man, when I want to, play on the go in the airport.
Well,
and
that's the
geek out.
thing, though.
As a grown-
You're
as
gonna
a
start
grown
over.
man.
You're gonna start
I'm a
over
grown-ass
it.
man.
If this
I-
game, has like a
I don't mind.
continuous content thing, you're gonna start. I don't know how it's designed. Is it like a
Well,
single player
there's
experience? You beat and you're done.
well, there's 4 houses, so even if I start on one house on the PC, I still got 3
And
other
you're
houses that I
in.
can do.
But don't you want it all together? That's why you get one of these big boys here. You know, you
Yeah.
get
It
big
ain't
boy
really,
consoles.
it ain't really that big of a deal to me. Remember, I'm the guy who doesn't really care about achievements in the first place, so it's not really that big
See,
of a deal to me.
I mean, we're almost at the end of year 6 here. A couple months, 3 months away from Switch being out a full 6 years. I still am at. You got to show me before I'll even. I've already said the Switch version's almost. I'm never gonna buy the Switch version of a game, but I'm still like, you guys got to show me, especially this new studio. I wouldn't be at all surprised if you're looking at Pokemon Scarlet performance or worse.
To me, when it comes to that, it
I'll buy
depends.
it.
It depends on the game. Depends on whether or not I get the Switch version. Like Sonic, the way Sonic is, I'm like, nah, I'm getting that either on PlayStation or Xbox or PC.
Yeah.
But like some things that I think fit the style. Like when I bought Cuphead, that was Switch.
Hades worked.
Yeah, I'm not
perfectly
talking
for
about.
for me.
I'm not talking about.
But you're talking about
side-scrolling 2D
higher
games. We're
talking
talking
about
about. I mean,
AAA
what they're
games.
showing is pushing fairly realistic version of
I'll buy it on
Hogwarts.
Switch. I won't play it on Switch, but I'll buy it on Switch.
I mean, I was just watching.
Oh,
I was gonna
Lord.
share my screen, but even like Immortals: Phoenix Rising, which isn't even coming close to what they're trying with Hogwarts, and they had to scale. I shouldn't have shared that. Let me bring it back
It's a little
up.
crusty. It's a little crusty.
They had
a little
to.
hasty.
They had to scale that back
monsters?
big time for Switch, and that's a cell shaded game from the get go. Like,
Yeah.
I'm really curious. I'm not one of these people that or I'm one of these people that I'm curious about technology. I was curious how they got Ori to run. I'm curious about what they had to do to get The Witcher 3 on the Switch. Whether I'm gonna buy it or not, I'm still curious about it, and it's more of a curiosity thing. Like, but I'm also very skeptical that the Switch version of Hogwarts is gonna have any semblance of consistent
that's the-
performance or
To me, that's the biggest thing, because this is why, I bought Witcher 3 on Switch, because if it wasn't for this one feature, I would have never touched it, and that's cross save. I would have not have touched. I would have never touched it, because it's like, okay, so I got to start all the way over. Like, it's cool that I can take, I can go grind and do my little things or whatever in the handheld on the Switch, and then go upload that save to my PC. Like,
Mhm.
that's great. Like, that was it. Was if it wasn't for that feature, I would not have touched it. So I think any game coming out that's a bigger game that's coming out on Switch should have that feature, because I think that is a big draw. I think that's a big draw, because a lot of people are like, okay, I can play it on the go, but I'm not stuck to just playing it on this one platform. When I go home and want to play on my beefy PC or whatever, I can do that, and I don't have to have 2 different saves. So they have to continue, if they want people to buy that version, they have to continue to do that. And like I said again, now with INEOs and Steam Decks out there, it's going to get a lot harder.
That's the other
to
thing. Are
convince
they
those
going to make
people.
a Steam Deck optimized version of Hogwarts? They'd be, kind of stupid not to. I think if they're going to make
They
that
will.
many different versions.
It may not be right away, but eventually they will, because that's what's happening with a lot of the games. Like they did the patch for Witcher 3, and it collapsed.
Yeah.
On Steam. It is on Steam Deck, but they patched that bitch in like 3 hours or something. It was ridiculous, and now it works fine. So
I heard it's like a 50 gig. I don't know if it's
Yeah,
a
it's a 50 gig
reinstall or
install.
just an update, because technically when you have a PS5 version,
it's supposed to overwrite.
it should
together.
just be
Yeah.
a new version of the game installed. And I was actually going to buy it, but it's more expensive than I was thinking it was going to be. Basically,
I haven't downloaded it yet, so I don't know.
you
but
can't get the only one available is the Game of the Year edition or complete edition, and it's $40 for The Witcher 3. I'm like, God damn! I thought it was gonna be like $15.
Oh, it was. You can't buy it around the time of something like this, because they're looking to sell more copies. They're like, we'll just raise that price back up.
So basically, for most games, I'm just like, all right, show me first. Like, even like Silk Song, I have no worries about that looking and
'Cause that game
performing
still
well.
exists.
I think that's gonna because Hollow Knight performs beautifully. You know, that game's gonna be 1080 60 on Switch. Is there really an advantage to the PS5 version? I guess I'll have to wait and see. I might just get it on Switch just because I have Hollow Knight on Switch and have them both. But if it utilizes HDR really well, then I'm gonna get the PS5 version. Like, you know, that just elevates it above. If they use the controller really well, any kind of, I don't know, rumble or the adaptive triggers, then I would consider that version. You know, I'm not gonna pay extra for the version, but anyway. So with all that said, it seems to be kind of a hot topic. People reevaluating when they think the Switch successor's coming out.
2024.
I'm thinking 2024 now. I was thinking 2023 a few years ago. And the main reason for me, I'm thinking either March 2024, because I don't know if Nintendo wants to just like come out fresh with new hardware at the holiday season again. I think they've done it. It's been successful.
They've opened a new market, so
you can you can build up your install base and then just get another huge wave on the holidays. I think they'll probably do
people
that.
Have money in March because
it's
tax
season,
time,
and
so,
by yourself.
I don't know why people haven't been doing this before, because it's like people are broke when it comes to Christmas. You know, like they're spending all their money. Why not wait till they get a nice little chunk of change?
And ain't nobody else to fight in tax season.
So the only thing, we got to factor in that chip shortage really threw a lot of things like off schedule. So who knows what if Nintendo had a different plan. I don't think there's any chance of a 2023. I just feel like they would have announced it.
No.
If they do it would.
I also excited with Zelda. I think.
Yeah.
I can't. I was say if you still putting Zelda out on the Switch, and there's no talk of a new system yet, then I don't think we're gonna get one until the year after.
But I could also see them pushing it to 25. I mean, I hate to say what RetroDeath's been saying, 10-year life cycle, but you put Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom out, unless this thing's fully backwards compatible and you'll have playing Tears of the Kingdom on the new system is going to be a flawless transition and it's going to look amazing. I don't know, you put Tears of the Kingdom out in June or May? And then
it's May.
Less than a year later, have a brand new system because I don't know. I'd feel like that would cut off the sales of Tears of the Kingdom.
We still got support for certain games going on, like Splatoon 3 is getting supported for a bit. You got Mario Kart 8 is getting supported until the next year, right?
Yeah, till the end of 23.
So I can't. To me, it wouldn't make sense to be like, all right, Mario Kart's been supported, boom, new system, like immediately after. And the
25 is hard though, because that's a long
here's my thing. What's gonna dictate it depends on what the next string of games we're getting get announced. Let me say that way, announced, because we know we got, I think Fire Emblem comes out in January. Advance Wars has some date in the future that exists. Pikmin 4 was announced, and that I'm assuming coming out.
Summer?
Gotta be next year.
Oh no, it's definitely next year.
September at the latest, I'm gonna say.
Yeah, because if you're putting Zelda out in May, it's either coming earlier or a bit after Zelda. You can't.
So
I'm still thinking that it's dependent on one game, solo game.
What game?
Metroid Prime 4.
If we don't hear about it at least in the first 2 directs of the year, then I'm saying that's gonna be
a Switch 2 game.
Yeah, that's gonna be a generational game. That's gonna be a cross-gen game.
But here's the thing: people are saying, "Oh, that's going to be a launch title for the Switch." I don't think that's a smart thing. I don't think that's a good idea because Metroid is not your major launch title game.
Yeah, the smartest thing would be have it out at the peak of
Mario
the system of Switch.
Right. Exactly.
It would make for a good visual demo, but it doesn't make for a good seller.
Well, it could have the legs of Breath of the Wild if it's the game everybody's going to buy to show off the system. But it's just so interesting. As much as I think it would be a huge mistake to just ride this Switch momentum until it dies, and then we better get a new system
They're
out.
not gonna do that. I
They
don't
did
think
that
they
with the
did it
Wii.
with the Wii, and you got the
Not a
Wii
good
U.
idea.
Yeah,
Well, we burned them bad. I think.
and you got the Wii U. I don't
So
think
the
they're gonna,
only way, and I know Robert and Clocked It and I had a big discussion about this. I think the only way you can successfully launch a Switch successor, not greatly affect sales of Zelda or any other late 2023 game, is it just has to be basically what the PS5 and Series X are. It's just a hardware upgrade, full backwards compatibility, and cross-gen support. I don't think Nintendo can continue to just cut the umbilical cord. Switch 2 has all these games that you can't get on the Switch 1, and then port. I mean, I would hope backwards compatibility, but but even
they don't
then,
do that, they're in trouble. If
they just launch Switch 2 and say, all right, here's Mario Kart 9, not playable on Switch, and unless it's 2025, I don't see them doing that.
Well, here, if it's backwards compatible, I could see it coming 2024. If it's backwards compatible, you can transition it into 2024 because you're not really losing anything. You get anything. I don't know if the games are getting like boosts from the new system, but you at least can play every game that you played on Switch on your Switch.
Especially if you just bought the
Switch
new.
Switch is not going to fall off a cliff in 2023, right? It's still going to sell decent. It may not sell.
It might sell more because those back people who've been waiting forever for a price cut.
I don't think there's anybody waiting. I think you're talking about potentially people finally buying. I think more likely isn't.
You think it's insane? 6 years later, it's still the same damn price.
Yeah.
It's more if you buy the OLED. Like, that's crazy.
And you can't blame anything because their chips completely separate process. Everything to them maybe costs more because it is not used anywhere else. The memory is really out of date. Slow. It's probably not. It only produced for the Switch, but I don't know. It's just it's so crazy because what happened with Skyward Sword? Yeah, this Wii was already dying, but you announced the Wii U before Skyward Sword came out, or right around the same time.
Yeah, a little bit before 2011, I want to say.
And so if you release Tears of the Kingdom in May, and then in June announced the Switch 2, and it's like, the Switch 2 is going to have its own library in 2024. I think the only way, and as much as people don't like it or like to say it stops them from wanting a new system, I almost think they got to do the cross-gen strategy for like a year because the Switch is so successful. I just don't think you can't do what they did for the 3DS. Well, they might, and just say, well, we're going to give you a bunch of old ports all in the last year of the 3DS like we got.
It's got to be backwards compatible. You think the Wii would have been as successful if they had GameCube backwards compatibility?
But what about the Switch 2 getting an exclusive game out the gate while the Switch is still selling 15-20 million in the previous year? Do you think they're just going to say, well, Mario Kart 9's on the Switch 2 and it's not playable on the Switch 1? Do you think they would do that?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
You know why? Because of 48 new tracks. That's why I think they would be fine moving on to Mario Kart 9 and being only on the next system. Because to me, that's a smart thing to do for Mario Kart 9. Because it's like, all right, you want to play Mario Kart. Mario Kart is a huge seller.
I think it's smart to sell the new system.
That's
for sure.
How you get them to go buy the new system is to put Mario Kart exclusively on the next system. That would be dumb if they did do cross-gen for Mario Kart 9. That would be dumb.
Yeah. So here are some things, and I feel like in certain areas we may not give Nintendo enough credit, and then I think we give Nintendo too much credit. But I feel like a lot of times they kind of look at the trends of their others, their competitors and stuff like that. I mean, Switch has been going on for 6. We're going on 7 years, and PlayStation and Microsoft have been doing the 7-year trend for a while. So I think they see the success in that with the Switch, but I think also too, backwards compatibility is not nothing new for Nintendo in the first place anyway. No. But I think that's something that they'll stick to because they already got a thing going. But like you said, Juice, we kind of killed it for them to let that die all the way off before they started Wii U. And I almost feel like the Wii U probably would have jumped out the gate way better if they had a cross-gen game that came. If the Wii U came out a year earlier, or if Skyward Sword came out the same time on the Wii and the Wii U, I
Right.
feel like a lot more.
I
success
always
would
said
be
they should have held Skyward Sword
Well,
for Wii U.
the reason I brought that up is the whole Breath of the Wild thing. Like, yeah, it sold 2 million on Wii U, I think, which already made it
But
profitable.
here's the thing about Skyward Sword specifically: if you hold Skyward Sword for Wii U, you would have to put the Wii back in Wii U, because Skyward Sword is a motion control game, and that means you got to put a damn motion controller in that system.
Almost everybody had a Wii remote
yeah.
at the point.
Yeah, but that's easy. That's fine to say. But if you're gonna call a console Wii U, there better be some Wii controllers in that shit. I mean, that's just it has to have it.
These are
Even if
decisions
people-
Nintendo's. I mean, these are discussions they got to have. I'm sure they're already having. Like, what do we do? Do we go bold and say, hey, Mario Kart 9, you have to buy a Switch 2 to play this game. But if you just bought Metroid Prime 4 and Tears of the Kingdom and Pikmin 4 6 months ago, well, this is gonna be, you're gonna have these are gonna be better experiences on this system, because this, if they do backwards compatibility, this could be the first time it's just straight backwards compatibility, not booting up like did the Wii boot GameCube games and
the
No,
Wii U? No,
did it go
but
resort
it
to
could
the
if
game?
you hacked it.
It said, "Hey, go in this little corner over here. That's the Wii."
Yeah.
Did
That's
it
the
have
Wii
still
game
have the
corner.
GameCube menu system with the memory cards, or was it just like
No,
The Wii? No,
no, it didn't.
no.
yeah, because you inserted the memory card, so it had to
You
have,
inserted, yeah.
but did
Yeah.
it have the UI of the GameCube?
It didn't have the
Yeah,
no.
yeah, it did. Yeah, it did, didn't it?
But
Oh,
did you
wait,
have
wait,
like
wait,
the
wait,
spinning, the
wait,
options?
It
I
didn't
don't,
have the,
Wait,
it didn't have all
wait.
that. Boom, boom, boom. No, it didn't
No,
have.
Because
you're right. You're right. Because it would immediately play the game. You could.
Yeah.
There was no way for
Okay.
you to jump in there.
but
Yeah,
how
you're
did you
right.
how did you manage your memory
You managed
cards?
to do the
Either
the
you
Wii.
did, yeah. It was an option in the settings.
Okay, because the Wii's backwards compatibility on Wii U, it would just boot up the Wii, basically the Wii's
Yeah,
operating
just at
system.
the Wii. Yeah, it was just running the Wii.
I think for the Switch 2, what they need, hopefully, if they got that 10-year deal with NVIDIA, maybe they're just going to wait for that to run out before they release a new system and go with AMD or
doubtful.
something.
I can't imagine waiting.
But
Nah.
you
They
would
found
hope for a
success.
seamless transition like Xbox Series X and PS5, where you just put in the disc, you play it straight from the PS5 menu, because that's what I have. That's what that's my experience. I put in Nier, it installs. I got the icon right next to all my other games. I click on it,
But
boots the game
that-
up.
That's actually a good follow up. Is
Juice-
Switch 2 gonna have cartridges? Because goddamn, these sizes of these games, you
Hey,
can't.
I think we're asking all the wrong questions. The real question is when we get a Switch 2, are we gonna finally be able to get backgrounds, and are those gonna transition over to the
Oh, shut the fuck up! Hey man, get him out of here! He's asking me
Yeah,
fucking questions.
hopefully they don't just take the Switch's operating system and plop that on the Switch 2. I'm hoping what they do with the
Ooh, I don't
PS5, where it's just like, it's like I said, I just boot up Nier, and it you wouldn't know if it didn't say PS4 on the logo. It just goes immediately into booting up the game. It doesn't go to a PS4 version of the PS4 architecture. No, it just plays, and it's just like, it doesn't matter if it's PS4 or PS5. You can't even tell the difference, other than the loading is quicker on the PS5 native game. So if they can pull that off, you put in your cartridge, and Breath of the Wild pops up, or Tears of the Kingdom pops up, and you click on it, and it just boots up immediately, and you're playing it seamlessly, and hopefully your save files can be there through the cloud.
Wouldn't mind it saying Switch 2 in the corner too. If you if you put in the cartridge, well, if there is hypothetically cartridges, and you put it in and it pops up, and next to the cartridge it says Switch 2, and
Yeah, what happens
that
if you
way-
put a Switch 2 cartridge in the Switch 1? Because I'm assuming they're going to do the little thing like the 3DS, put a little
Yeah,
notch
they'll
on
probably
it
do. They'll probably do
so
something
it don't
like that.
fit.
Oh, whoop,
Yeah.
that
There's a-
face. Whoop, whoop.
Here's the more interesting question, because we know how Nintendo is with their naming conventions, and you know damn well they're not just gonna call
Switch
it the
U.
Switch 2. What do you think they're gonna call it?
No,
They gonna call it
Switch you?
Switch new, NU. Switch new.
Switch new, man.
I've said this on my
Switch
channel
you
multiple. I've said this on my channel multiple times. It's going to be called the Switch X2, and the X is going to stand for 10th generation, and 2 is going to be the number 2
No,
for.
Switch new.
That's a little bit too modern.
That's too complicated
Nah.
for Nintendo.
And it's
No.
going to be 2 times. It's going to
If
be
they're
2 times
smart,
as powerful as the Switch.
They're gonna
Switch
pull a
new.
PlayStation. There's 2, and the next one's gonna be
Yeah.
3.
And my dream would be the little Switch logo, and then like a little what do you call it? What do you call that?
Give it the
Mask?
Sonic 2? Is that what you want?
What
Give
do
it
you
the
call
Sonic
that?
2?
The
what?
trademark thing?
No, the little 2. You have a big number,
Like
and you have a small one.
second.
What is that called? That little
Oh,
integer?
it's
What is it?
fuck.
The
I know
power,
what you're talking-
the power sign?
No,
Yeah.
it's like but
Like-
it's like is it ampersand? No, that's
Integer
not it.
sound kind of
Like
right.
two, like Switch squared, basically.
Yeah.
What is that
Yeah,
called?
there we go.
That'd be
Yeah.
cool.
I think that would be
Switch
cool.
deck.
I like Switch squared. Actually.
Switch deck.
Switch squared.
Yeah.
Oh man,
Put the
that's
little
going.
2 next to it, and then all
That's-
your games have that little 2. Because Nintendo likes doing that kind of shit. Where
Right.
it's just like U, obviously the U,
And I mean,
or the 64, or that kind of stuff.
I don't think anybody here thinks Nintendo's gonna not make it have
Super.
a handheld option, if not be the main unit
Definitely.
again.
Let me ask you a question. Do you think it would be a detriment if they went back to a traditional console?
I'm sure for the
It
success
would be a detriment for
Yeah, it would be the same way as how we see the Wii U for Zelda
what
and
I'm-
Wind Waker.
Even
It would be. I feel like it
even
would be a degrade.
even if they match power.
Well, just think about the Switch.
If you get
Had
rid
the
of the
Switch come
handheld
out,
part, it's
had the Switch come out, and it was just that box. You can't take that shit on to go anywhere. How successful do you think it would have been? Not.
Well,
that-
no. I mean, well, obviously for the Switch.
if
but
the
I'm saying for
successor
Switch-
to the Switch is just a home console only,
It's losing.
you're looking at 30 million tops lifetime.
It's losing. I think that's
that's
because you've got 2 systems out there. One, well, both of them with bigger name brands than Nintendo, and then you got Nintendo, who's already got a track record of not having too many
Nintendo
third parties
knows
in
how
the first
many
place.
people play portable and Switch Lite. I think it
Right.
was 50-50
They have to every
a couple
time,
years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah, it's about 50-50.
But the
Well,
Switch
here's the
Lite
thing.
sold pretty well.
Whether people like it or not, because sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. Nintendo has to do something to differentiate itself from the other 2 guys, because they know that, because they can't compete money wise and against the 2 big tech companies. They can't do it. So they made that decision after GameCube. Like, damn, this bitch is a beast. Nobody cared. We're gonna double down on this. And give a nice little different gimmick, and that gimmick luckily went out for them. It what sold the console, motion controls. So
Yep.
they know they have to do something different.
All
They
right.
couldn't even just put out a PS5 level console and expect to do great.
I got 2 things. First of all, Retro Death being Retro Death. What does the Wii U name have anything to do with them naming the Switch 2? Like, those aren't related at all. Like, if the
It's
Switch
more-
2
Yeah, that's-
would be the
Makes
solution
way more
to the
sense.
Wii U. The Wii U was the problem. The Switch 2 would be
Wii
the
U should've
solution to
been Wii
that.
2
The
or
answer.
not Wii at all.
Yeah.
But as far as that, so
Nintendo U.
Nintendo putting out.
What do you think? Do you think they'll
Like-
add anything to the Switch 2?
Here's what.
specifically?
Well, here's what. Let me get this
I
out.
think
'cause I
they'll
keep
take something
forgetting.
away.
Nintendo's lesson from the
Take away them
GameCube.
damn Joy-Cons. They can do that.
I think
The
Nintendo
HD
learned.
Rumble.
I think Nintendo didn't learn the right lesson from the GameCube, and then I think they learned. I
You
think
can
they
say
put
that.
too
I
much
gotta say
stock
that.
into the gimmick of the motion controls and the Wii overall success. I think the price combined with that was the major. Those 2, I don't think you can put out the motion controls in a $400 system and it's gonna
No,
it was gonna
it's
do what it's gonna
the
do.
price and Wii Sports. That's what sold.
But I think the
Wii.
GameCube, the takeaway was, we made this system very similar to the other 2, and it got buried. Well, it was
was
right there with
$100 cheaper,
Xbox,
too.
but then they did what Nintendo does. They made, as much as people may not want to admit it, like T always talk, they put a damn handle on it. I think it looked like a lunchbox. It was not visually an appealing. I mean, I still to this day don't like that big gray rectangle and with the controller ports.
It didn't look good.
They
I never liked the
go with the
design.
small disc, so I mean, yeah, there's plenty of games that use dual discs.
And you can be mad at us for saying these things, but I specifically remember I was a grown ass man when the GameCube came out, and this is the stuff that everybody was making fun of at the time. Everybody else was like, look,
for no reason they
that stuff mattered back then. Oh, and its weakness too. That's another thing. People were changing and wanted their system to look good in their entertainment centers. When you have this big purple lunchbox sitting in your entertainment center, it doesn't look as cool as the sleek looking. Even the Xbox looked better because it looked like a VCR, but it looked like it fit in the entertainment center where this purple lunchbox did not. It didn't look right. So these are things that people cared about. It's not. We're not making this up. This is what people. You could go look at the magazines at the time and see what people were saying.
Retro, how is Switch 2 going to be confusing to people?
It's 2.
Like, how is that confusing?
It's not going to be confusing. If anything, it's too simple, and that's not
Here's
what
the second.
Yeah, I think that's what he's trying to get at.
Nintendo doesn't like. Nintendo has never done simple.
No, he's saying they're not going to try the confusion thing again. It's not confusing. Switch 2 is the easiest and most clear way to say.
That's why they won't do it.
Well, that's why I said it's Nintendo-like, to go with what I'm saying, because it's Nintendo-like, but it's also still simple. It's like, it's not Switch 2, it's Switch Squared.
Switch Squared.
So that's a Nintendo-like thing to do.
But it's still a 2 for anybody that just wants to call it Switch 2.
Oh, no, it's still 2. But it allows
that's the simple part.
The trade-off is that I'm allowed to be quirky, but it also
but
I can be quirky and simple at the same time.
Give it to the journalists so they can be like, I don't know what that is. Is it squared or is it 2? I don't.
Yeah.
Am I supposed to get the square root of that, or am I supposed to do some algebraic equation?
And
does that mean it's a Switch times Switch power? Is
that twice the power? We all know why the PS2 sold so well. I mean, a fucking DVD player, and Sony owned the rights. You had to pay Sony, Microsoft,
but that's why it's a DVD player.
So you can't. That was an anomaly generation. And Nintendo was right there with the Xbox, the GameCube was. But the sales, I think the third-party sales and stuff were really low compared to, especially PlayStation. I'm not sure about compared to Xbox.
I will say, I agree with your point from earlier, just where you said they learned the wrong lesson from the GameCube. But the lesson I think they should have learned is, it wasn't that your GameCube wasn't strong enough. It wasn't even that your GameCube... I mean, the look, I know matters, but I don't think it mattered...
It mattered. Trust me, I'm getting out of school as an adult. It mattered.
What I'm saying is the biggest problem I think the GameCube had was just the choice in media they chose to go with. I think that to me, you could have still did a GameCube, and if you had just had it to be the same format as like DVD discs as PlayStation.
You say that, but how
I'm just saying. Do you think?
I don't even know.
You're not. It's not just you that said that. I got a video from years ago talking about that very same thing. People say that, but then I look at my PlayStation RPGs and they're all like 4 and 5 discs, all of them. So that argument doesn't work for me as much because I just
I think
it was more beneficial to the developers, and then it translated to like less sales for the GameCube because it was like they were willing to do the 4 or 5 discs for the fucking PlayStation 2, but they were like,
PlayStation
I'm not about 1. My bad. No, wait.
There's probably some on PlayStation 2, but I mean, the GameCube holds 1 gig versus 7 gigs of a DVD, so it was 1/7 of the storage.
It's 1.5 gigs for a GameCube disc.
Was it 1.5?
Yeah.
All right. Well, either way, I almost think
Dreamcast was 1 gig, and
I think it wasn't just the space. I think it was just the aesthetic. Somebody seeing this little tiny kids disc.
Like
I'm not saying it isn't the aesthetic, but I'm just saying. Y'all don't think that if it went with the same DVD format as PlayStation, it would have?
No, look at the Xbox. It only sold 2 million more units.
Xbox didn't play DVD movies though, did it? I think it was CDs.
It did, but you had to buy a $30 remote.
Yeah.
Oh, did you?
It wasn't out of the box. You had to go and buy something.
I never even knew it played
to make it work. Oh yeah, it plays them.
I expected that for Xbox because it was the new kid on the block, so it had to.
But Nintendo had the legacies. Xbox.
That's what I'm saying.
New.
That's what I'm saying. If it had the proper media, I think it would have. I think the race would have been a lot closer.
I think it was a matter. I don't think Nintendo should have just said, "All right, well, having power like these other systems isn't worth doing." because I think he could have had.
No, I would
both,
agree. I agree
but,
with that statement.
I think they were trying to recoup from what they lost on GameCube. They're like, well, that's another thing they were trying to do.
because they
were trying
basically
to
used the
recoup.
GameCube chip again. Yeah.
Same
Well,
thing they
even-
did with the Switch, by the way.
even in that thought though, when they dropped the Wii, I remember, I don't remember who said this in the interview, but there weren't a whole lot of the ownerships of HD TVs at that time wasn't really high.
Well, they said
And
that,
at
but 2 years later, it's like, oh shit.
I mean, they didn't read that. They didn't read into that, but
Well, I guess the
think that-
360s when it zoomed.
Well,
yeah.
they made a similar
Wasn't till
mistake
the end of the
with the
GameCube.
GameCube by not caring about online. Online
Mhm.
went whoop, just like that in a couple years after it came out. So they made the similar mistake, not emphasizing online.
And the
on
Wii
GameCube. That
was-
was another huge reason the GameCube was also not, a lead platform, because they didn't have this. You didn't have online play.
And didn't have as
If you
many
look at it-
buttons.
So if you look at it in that aspect, you got the GameCube that didn't have online like that, so they were playing catch up with the Wii with online, and then they didn't have HD, so then they were
No
in certain
HDMI,
aspects-
no digital
Yeah.
audio. It's just like, oh, we're sticking to the Well, I had component video.
So they were playing catch up more or less with the Wii U, but I feel like the Wii U kind of did a little
Well,
bit
it
of
came
a
out
different
too late.
trend.
It
I
came
feel
out
like
too
the
late.
Wii. Well, check this though. So the Wii U is actually a GPU heavy system. I think I've talked about
Mhm.
this before too. And
most
at that
people
time,
didn't utilize the GPU.
yeah, most people were still doing CPU
That's because
heavy
the
stuff.
360 was
until-
like fucking 4 gigahertz or something ridiculous.
yeah,
And
until the PS4 and the Xbox One came out, and I feel like that's kind of what they tried to get ahead of the schedule, and
They didn't go far enough.
it just
Just to get back to the disc format thing really quickly again, how well did the Xbox 360 do? Did pretty well, right?
Mm-hmm.
There were plenty of games on that on multiple discs
2
because it was-
million.
because it was a DVD. It had the DVD. It wasn't Blu-ray. It wasn't
But
even
was-
HD DVD.
Were those GameCube discs because they were custom just for that system, and Nintendo could price them how they wanted?
That's another thing. Nintendo had a higher what do you call it? What do they call that?
Cost?
They were
Licensing
charging
fee.
Licensing fees, right?
Oh, there
The
we go.
licensing fees were higher, and they basically were the ones that supplied those mini DVDs. So they were trying to keep control
Mm-hmm.
on stuff.
All right, let's
and that
get
was
back
their
to
own
the
fault.
Switch 2, though. I mean, I love this talk, and I know our initial Wii U 10-year anniversary. It's you can't talk about the Wii U without talking about the interesting thing to me is just everything evolving, the negatives, the failure of the sales, all that stuff to me
Mhm.
combines to the Wii U. You can't talk about the Wii U without talking about 13 million sold and
13.5. Get it right.
13.5. You just can't skip that stuff. Same with GameCube. You can love the GameCube all you want. You can't deny that it sold 20 million units, and they felt the pressure to get games out before they were ready to try to boost sales. Sunshine and Wind Waker. But anyway,
Wind
Switch 2.
Waker?
I disagree, Retro. I think Switch 2 is the perfect. Just because there's Switch Lite and Switch OLED, Switch 2 is the clearest way to let you know this is the next Switch.
yeah. Plus,
Anything
it
else-
gives it that iPhone effect.
Anything else is
Oh.
confusing.
Or Switch TOO if you want to be extra quirky. Nintendo.
Also, yeah. Also,
But I think you got to have portable. I just don't think you have a.
Yeah.
would you be okay if the dock finally had some sort of hardware component in it?
I would hope that.
I don't think I don't think you have to have the dock.
I don't think it needs it.
The only thing the dock can do provide consistent power, like I've been saying since 2019. Just I know they didn't want to have the CPU change from dock to portable because that affects physics and all that. That would actually negatively affect development. You'd actually have to do almost like an Xbox One versus Xbox One X. All right, we got to make this portable version, and then we got to make the dock version. If you're gonna actually have the GPU overclock, because I mean, I get the logic. We're gonna have the CPU consistent, so you don't affect, like I said, you don't affect physics or anything like that, loading times, everything, and the GPU just changes your graphical settings. But I still think certain developers, especially Nintendo themselves, could have utilized the current Tegra, the more efficient one. Run it at 2 gigahertz instead of 1. You double the clock speed. Develop the game, the docked for. Let's take advantage of this 2 gigahertz. Not things they're gonna lose necessarily, but maybe it'll be 60 FPS. Maybe I'm not sure. You could have better quality textures. I'm not sure CPU what that actually entails, but I don't think you actually put power in the dock. I just think that confuses or that complicates the development process, because then I think if they were going to do that, then they would have just bumped the CPU up to max to its technically standard.
More RAM.
My gosh, ask for it.
Memory clocks. What is it? No, it's not called memory speed. Memory bandwidth is why Bayonetta 3 can't hit 60 consistently when you're not moving the camera around. It's just not much happening on screen. And what is it? Modern Vintage Gamer, is that the guy?
MVG, yeah.
He hacked his Switch, so he can turn the memory bandwidth down, the megahertz of the memory speed. And as he did that, the frame rate. I mean, it's a fixed background. There's nothing on, no enemies. It's just a background in the city. 52 FPS a lot. Doesn't deviate. He dropped the memory clock speeds down 1. It goes to 33. He dropped it down to the lowest, and it was like teens. Just no camera movement, just memory bandwidth. So overclocking the Switch didn't do anything because it was a memory bandwidth issue. So if I just feel like that's a question: is Nintendo willing to have basically the dock be the pro version and the handheld be the base version, where developers actually have to make 2 different versions? Because they have to do a few things. They have to do a few things now, but they don't have to count for a clock speed change or significantly more processing power or anything. So they, you just.
Here's the thing. I think games are. Go ahead, sorry.
What if? Okay, so along that lines, they use the chip kind of like a all-in-one embedded chip like they have with the Switch, but then the GPU just is more a help of an assistance that's in the dock, not necessarily in a whole separate.
Well, what the dock could have is a chip that does DLSS. That's what. Something because like that. You don't need DLSS in handheld mode. No, I mean, you talk about it in your stream. I said it. The Switch looks. I mean, most games other than Xenoblade Chronicles 2 is the big one. There's Hellblade looks terrible in portable mode. Most games look better in my mind, to my eyes, look better in portable play than they do on blown up on a TV. So if you have the dock have this DLSS chip in it and constant power, then right there, you could have the GPU and stuff bump up, but the DLSS is going to have it basically going to look way better and have it run at basically what it would run in portable mode almost. And just
that's exactly what I was about to get at. It's like, because games today are getting more and more customizable. Like you getting customization menus in console games at this point now. What if when you're docked, that menu opens up and says, "Okay, now you have access to this because the game recognizes that you have more RAM or you have the DLSS chip in your dock, and it can see that, and you can play it that way based on that." Because N64 had the RAM cart, and certain features were allowed on certain games because it recognizes it. Oh, you got the RAM RAM expansion. It detected. You can have these features now. So I don't think that would even be that difficult for developers to even work with. I think that's probably right up their alley because they're used to it.
I'd be a little worried with developers maybe building their game for the docked experience, utilizing every little bit of that, and then when you go portable, it suffers. But not a lot. I don't know.
You snatch that bitch out and was like, oh,
it depends on the size screen and what.
If they're using DLSS for that, then I would imagine that most of the games, let's say docked is 1080 for all intents and purposes, I think when you put it in the dock, or no, undocked is 1080. I'm sorry, but when you put it in the dock, it still reads as 1080. But then the DLSS
Pumps up to
kicks in
2K or
and bumps it
4K.
up to 2K. Yeah, so it's really not
Yeah, the Switch wouldn't change.
pushing it
Nothing
to
in the
do
Switch
more. Yeah,
would. I mean, they could still have the GPU go up plus the DLSS.
yeah,
Because what's his name from Digital Foundry, the PC guy, Alex.
yeah.
He tested what wattage is needed for like the DLSS, whatever chip that is on those GPUs, and he said it's going to need at least 20 watts. And then he pointed out that portable mode doesn't need DLSS, so it's like it doesn't need to be it doesn't need to be engaged or even in the Switch. So yeah, I think with constant power, it can get the power it needs in docked only. And I think the game literally you take it off, and the game itself doesn't really have to run any different. You put it down, and now you just get way better image quality.
Yeah. You get a menu pop up and say, "Oh, you're docked," and then remember when Reggie first showed off the Switch?
I think you could still have it be.
I
think you could still do the liftoff with that DLSS chip. Obviously, it's starting to be running constantly. There might be a few seconds where it's got to engage.
Remember when Reggie first showed up? I think it was who's tonight? Who's
Jimmy Fallon?
Jimmy Fallon. Yeah.
Remember when he had to like do a little certain thing that people were like speculating, what's that? What's happening? Reggie, because obviously you pull the Switch out, you better keep playing or whatever. But I remember when he first did that Jimmy Fallon show,
people thought
he
it
had
was
to
fake.
do a little something, and it was like, whoa, what's this about? What is he doing when he undocked it? Because a menu or something popped up, and so that's something that's pretty normal. Like when I play my Steam Deck and I plug it in to I use a charger that's less than 45 watts. It's like, oh, you're on low power mode.
Mm-hmm.
It recognizes it right away.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm pretty sure if he was putting it in dock and taking it out, it was that.
It's probably controllers.
Yeah, the screen check to be like, oh, you got it connect it to the Switch.
Yeah, because you got to hit the button.
Yeah.
So I'm almost thinking the size almost identical, maybe a little bit thicker or something, just a little bit. The Switch itself, and I don't.
Size?
Yeah, like the OLED, the screen, just the base system. I think be similar. I wouldn't mind some kind of improved cartridge slot. I don't know what it is on the OLED, but I don't.
Oh, I said they take out a feature. It's gonna be HD Rumble.
That's not really losing anything.
I mean,
well, yeah, because Nintendo doesn't care about
they
it
could
anymore.
They could go the other way, and they could try to compete with Sony's haptic feedbacks.
I think they should do that.
I think they should, but
will they?
Right.
Because it is. I mean, it is cool. I mean, it's the best. It's the most revitalized Rumble, since the Rumble initially. It's what HD Rumble was supposed to be, and what I guess it felt like in 1-2 Switch, which I never experienced myself.
Yeah. It's crazy in 1-2 Switch. It does.
It's pretty
really
feeling like raindrops are hitting my controller is pretty cool. Like that's I never thought it would be possible, but it is.
And that's what annoys me the most. It's like, okay, you went all out in this funky ass game that was way overpriced, but you didn't do anything else with it. Mostly, with another big games. Why?
I'm hoping Retro actually does something with it with Prime. I think that would be sweet.
Be great,
it's burnt. It's my Pro controller. Pro HD Rumble has been trashed since Starlink. What was that? 2018.
Oh man, Starlink!
Starlink just destroyed that.
It went crazy.
But yeah, I'm saying similar size. I like the idea of putting like a DLSS, some kind of chip. If it's NVIDIA, it's going to be DLSS support. You dock it, maybe a spinning wheel for a couple seconds as it engages the and also the GPU and stuff could be bumped up, and you just have a really nice docked experience. You take it off. I think 720p would be fine. The OLED if it's an OLED, it looks great. I saw it in person finally. And then games would actually, you would hope, the more powerful system, they'd actually be able to run at native it wouldn't even be a question. If you're in docked, every game's gonna be native 720, which is gonna be better. Just looking, it's gonna look like I honestly believe. You guys know how much I'm a Switch hater since 2018. If you could just take the OLED right now and have the Tegra, whatever it's called, the newest version that's in there, just have that run in docked settings when it's in portable play, and just have all the games run at native 720p or as close to native 720p as possible on that OLED screen.
Boy.
You'd be already talking PS4 games on the go. It'd be right there with the Steam Deck, in my opinion.
I didn't realize it until I got one. OLED, well, that's game changer. Like it got me looking at my Steam Deck sideways. Like, why you ain't got that, bro?
So here's so T has one, Terrell has one. I'm gonna. You probably won't, but here's a way how to see what I'm talking about looks like. Play your Switch in docked. Put on whatever best looking games you have. Take screenshots in docked, which takes them at the resolution of docked. Take your OLED off, and then view those screenshots. That's how the game would look in my scenario, where it just runs in docked mode, the docked specs, while you're in portable play. That's how good the games would look.
Yeah,
I've done it just with my Switch, and it looks. And then you take the same screenshot in portable mode, and you look at them, and you can see the difference. And I mean, I think that would. Right there would have made the OLED a must-have upgrade for way more people, not for everybody, but I would say way bigger draw. And so the Switch 2, I'm thinking portable doesn't have to do a whole lot for the portable side.
And bring back Street Pass. What the fuck, bro?
Oh boy.
Why did you get rid of Street Pass? Street Pass.
It could do that. It could
One of my
do
favorite things on 3DS.
make it a customizable UI experience. Make it your own. I don't know. I just don't see them getting away from the general aesthetic. I wouldn't mind if they start over with the Joy-Con, but at the same time, I wouldn't blame them for sticking with the same mounting system. But I'm so over the Joy-Cons. Personally,
the Joy-Cons would be different. The mounting system would be the same.
I wouldn't mind.
How much would you change the Joy-Cons?
It needs to be more sturdy.
I would I would completely redesign them.
I don't know. I feel like it'd be like Xbox to 360 or 360 to Xbox One. I mean, overall, those are all the same controllers.
I would look at the Split Pad
they need
Pro.
to be bigger.
I'd look at the Bing Box, something like that, from Nintendo with that Nintendo build quality. Feel like a great controller. You could maybe use the same rail system if that's
Where
you want.
did they did the thing? I think the Xbox, was it the Elite controller does? Where you can like change out
thumbsticks, D-pad. Yeah,
I wonder if they gave it a customizable feel and did that. That would help. That way, you could sell the extra parts so you could customize it. Even have like themed parts, like you got these Pokemon theme controller.
I think that's too complicated.
But I think having a D-pad instead of the little buttons.
Well, I'm trying to just figure out how do you get it simplified enough to where it's still appealing, but it isn't like what the fuck.
Terrell, you're taking away from their potential other sales of more of those controllers.
Well, that's what I'm trying to say. Like,
right, you sell that controller separately.
Right.
All right, so let me ask this.
Put that in the box. What's wrong with you? Trying to make money?
Oh my lord!
I already know my answer. If the Switch 2 comes out and it's just Joy-Cons, more Joy-Con, no Joy-Con 2.0, it's just Joy-Cons attached to the Switch. How disappointed would you be if it's just the standard Joy-Con?
I would say, well, back to this Pro controller.
Yeah.
What about for portable play though?
I'd be like, well,
third party.
Back to my Switch Pad Pro.
I would be devastated if they just said,
I wouldn't be happy.
Oh, it would be terrible.
Same size, same tiny buttons, same lack of ergonomics. I would be fucking. What does Terrell have there? Some kind of grip?
And
I got the grip on.
Well, there is a new, I don't know if it's Benbach or whoever, one of the guys, where it's like it's not as big as the Split Pad Pro, and but it's bigger than the Joy-Cons, and I think that is the perfect size because you can still do your whole, flip it sideways and make it a control, but it feels more meaty in the hands. It's better. It's not too big like the Split Pad Pro might be for some people, and it's not too small. That's something they need to do. They need to redesign and make it a little bit bigger. Not, like I said, not as big as a split pad Pro. I think that might be too big for a lot of people. But and still have that kind of same shape to where you can turn it sideways and still get your.
Well, if
your
they
game
make
on
it
the
backwards
same
compatible
platform.
with the Joy-Cons, then but sell it with the better ergonomic ones, and then if
Yeah,
you want to just
yeah,
use your Joy-Cons for smaller size, you could.
yeah.
So I
That's
wouldn't
Yeah.
why
be totally
that's why the
against that.
rails won't change because they're
Yeah.
probably going to want to make it backwards compatible with
But
the.
unless
Yep.
they add something button-wise, I don't know what they could add.
Also, Juice, I can see what you were saying earlier with that comparison with the screenshot
Did
thing.
you do it?
I did with Ori. It is surprisingly apparent.
And
There's a
imagine that in
portable computer
motion.
out right now.
Imagine that in motion on that OLED. Like Metroid Dread, I think would be a good one. Bayonetta 3 probably be a pretty good
See if
one.
I can find it. There is a portable computer
I
that
think
came
the
out
only thing
that has rail systems and controllers. Like I just saw a video on it. Let me see
So
if I can
what
find
did
it.
I say to you, Sandstorm? Didn't I say in your chat like I would skip the Switch if
The
something
One X
happened?
player. One X player.
you
Oh,
was
really?
good. Oh,
I said
you
I
would
would
s-
skip the Switch if something happened, and I'm trying to remember what your scenario was. If it was the same, I don't think you said same power level.
No, I maybe was I talking about performance? Because I think a lot of it we were talking about performance.
PS4 Pro.
Oh, like I can't remember my exact thing. Obviously, it doesn't mean it wasn't that big of a deal to me if I can't even remember what I said. But I feel like I said, oh, if it's another generation, we're talking 7 years after Switch launch. If it's another generation of sub 1080, 30 frames per second games, I said I'd consider
Yeah.
not getting the system because I mean, and I'm not asking for 4K. I'm not.
720p is not good
I'm
enough.
just talking
It's not
about
full HD.
like Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I think that's a good looking game on Switch, but that game to achieve and this is another thing we can finish on, to achieve Xenoblade Chronicles 3 level of visuals, as far as I feel like it's a step up over 2 and a step up over X as far as what you see on screen, everything they've done. It runs at a native 540, and then they add some kind of upsampling to it's almost like an AA to kind of clean up the image, but it's native 540. And X, to the best of my knowledge, which they didn't, Digital Foundry was back then, they didn't do as in depth. I'm pretty sure all Wii U games were native 720, but I'm not 100%. But so it tells me that Xenoblade Chronicles 3 to me looks like a generational leap over X. As much as I love X, if you really look at the character models and a lot of the stuff close up, I feel 3 looks like a generational difference between X. But the only way they could achieve that, they actually possibly went down the native resolution, but used an upscaling technique to make it still look good. If they just took X's level of visuals and character models, I think that easily could have been a 60 frames per second game or a block 1080 or something, but they decided to push more, possibly polygons, more texture quality, higher texture quality, more characters on screen, and all that, but at the cost of running the game at 540, which, I mean, I'm never shied away from saying is if I can see a Nintendo game at higher quality, to me that's not, there's no negative. I don't see anybody saying, nah, I wouldn't want to see Xenoblade Chronicles 3 running at 4K. Like I wouldn't want that. If you had to pay a bunch extra, yeah, I could see not upgrading for it, but these games look great with just a resolution bump. So that was what I was saying. I'm hoping we don't have to go through another 6-7 years of them having to still be, sub HD in order to get the games to the visuals they really want, like the
Oh
push.
yeah, that's
Yeah,
what
it's
we
gonna
were
be
talking about. We were talking
2024.
about resolution and texture qualities.
Yeah, because it's like I think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 looks good, but there's times where it gets really blurry when you have 7 party members and you're fighting multiple giant creatures. I mean, it takes a hit at times, but I accept it. I still love the game. 110 hours in the game. It's not like I won't play it, but I would be very disappointed if there's another 6-7 years of that in the future. It's like let's
So Switch 2 TOO or squared has to be at least as powerful as the current Steam Deck, which is 4 times more powerful than the Switch. Is that what you're saying?
is it 4 times?
It's
Yeah.
4 times.
But games, I think, because games aren't designed with it in mind, I don't think you really see that. I think
Yeah,
if
you
somebody
don't
said,
need
you
that.
know what, we're gonna make a game designed for the Steam Deck, kind of like, let's say, Monolith Soft, to put all their talents into making a game just for the Steam Deck. I think that's when you would see a bigger difference than just saying, "Oh, Elden Ring running on the Steam Deck on low, whatever settings it has to be, medium settings." I think the potential's there. So I think the Switch 2's biggest advantage would be games designed specifically for the hardware.
Also, too, does Steam Deck run just like the PC, where it still has to run the application in the background?
Well, it's got to run a converter. What is that called? That converts to Linux. That runs games that aren't designed for Linux.
And Switch doesn't really have to. Well, no home console really has to do that. Have to worry about running other programs unless it's the UI.
Well, the Steam
since we
UI,
got
it's not
that
like
now.
it's not like it's Windows where you have all these applications in the background, but it still has to do
Yeah.
things. But I
Yeah.
mean, PS5 has constantly recording footage in the background. It's constantly, you get messages and stuff, so stuff's happening. It's not like the CPU is only dedicated to games, and I don't think anything is. But
I think if it was right there with Steam Deck, even if it was, I would be okay even if it was a little bit under Steam Deck. But
So
the
like a
reason,
base PS4.
yeah, but the reason why is because they put something in, because like you said, they're gonna put something in, some sort of innovation somewhere. So
Right.
if that money went towards some sort of innovation that was actually not HD Rumble or a better HD Rumble
something we
that
don't
got
see.
used.
I don't think they need to do. I think the innovation for Nintendo at this point, honestly, is just not starting over and having a smooth transition to the next system. To me, that's an innovation for Nintendo because they don't do it. Just have a smooth transition. You don't have to start over with this hardware. You don't have to do something different.
Yeah, the innovation.
They don't have to, but how
The
they are.
innovation
That's
is
like
the game.
VR out of the
Oh,
box. VR.
No.
Put a
No,
fucking
God, no.
put a fucking headset in the box. Like put the where is it? I can't take it because it.
Hey man, can we not?
Put the fucking screen is right there.
He
Please
wants the
don't.
cardboard back.
Down.
He wants the
Please don't.
cardboard box back again.
Oh,
He
we don't
wants
need that. No, I have. You've seen my video where I have the what is it called?
But how much does that weigh compared to the PlayStation headset? Like a Switch
It's
on
not
your
much
face.
different.
I'd be curious.
It ain't much difference. This compared to this, it's certainly not much different. The Switch isn't. If it's heavier than this, I'd be surprised actually.
So, just getting back to
just the headset. Yeah, I think it's
the Switch power. Like I said, because they'll have the benefit of Monolith making a game specifically for the Switch 2. It doesn't have to be as powerful as the Steam Deck, but to still have games technically look better.
this shit is heavier, bro. And the VR headset is heavier.
Well, I think if you put it to a decent headset, put the Switch in front, I think it would. I'd be curious.
All the hardware is here. All you got to do is put the fucking strap on, and it's like a foam strap. But
you still have lenses and the goggles. You want it to be comfortable. You want to be able. You don't want to hold it with your hands. You want it to have like.
Did you not see my Orvo headset?
I did, but I'm saying when you combine that with the Switch, would that be
it's not heavy. I'm telling you, I've worn it. I wear it once in a while. I haven't worn it as much lately, but it's not that heavy. It's the headset itself is not that heavy. All the weight is this.
That's what I'm saying. I was wondering if that.
But it's not. What I'm saying right now, this is heavier. This bad boy here. So if you put this into your strap, it's not going to be much heavier than this.
Right.
If this is fine, then what I'm saying on the Switch.
We don't want it. We don't want VR on our Switch.
Well, you don't have to have it, but it's a nice extra feature that nobody else can beat because it's in the system.
That's true. But we talking options.
You don't,
And
you don't
I
have to
love
go
Nintendo.
buy.
I love Nintendo, but options ain't.
So
ain't
you're
something
talking
that they
about
talk
the Steam Deck is 4 times more powerful, but what do the Steam Deck games look like hooked up to a TV? Like
Now they look really good. Before there was an issue. That's why they held the dock off, because there was a software thing as far as hooking it up to a dock. You can get 1080p, and obviously there's certain what do you call them? There's certain indie games that you can get 4K out of. I haven't done that myself. I
the
don't
last
have a 4K
video I
TV.
saw like a month ago, you couldn't even run the UI in 4K without it crashing.
I've never had a. Well, I don't do 4K, so I don't know.
Yeah, they said that,
but
it's not. You shouldn't even want. It's not intended as a 4K machine. And if you're buying it to hook to a 4K monitor, you're kind of missing the point, because it's.
Yeah, you're doing too
I
much.
mean, relatively speaking, the Steam Deck's, as far as a desktop, it's fairly low powered. Like you're not gonna run The Witcher 3 high
45
high
watt,
settings. So my question is, are you okay with the Switch docked being below the Steam Deck docked in like 2 years from now? Like
that really depends. If we're talking the DLSS,
yeah, if they
thing,
do something
then I don't mind.
to get you up there and get the image quality looking good.
Yeah, if that's the case, if we're talking that, then I don't mind. But if not, then I feel like.
And by the way, in 2 years there's going to be a Steam Deck revision. So
they said that the screen and
revisit.
He said the screen and the battery life are the focus. They're not going to do hardware until there's a bigger gap before they can implement a bigger gap. That's what he said in a recent interview. But
the Steam Deck will be 3 going on 4 years old at that point. I think they'll be thinking hardware.
Yeah.
By then.
So
not right now, but by then I think.
And again, when I was talking to Sandstorm, saying that I would, I don't want to go through another 6-7 years. I was talking about the docked experience. I don't want another 6-7 years of compromised docked experience. Basically, what I'm saying. And if if they're going to continue that trend. Obviously the games are going to be appealing, but I'm just going to be so disappointed. I don't know if I'm going to be there. Definitely don't think I'd be there day one. Like,
man, when you see that new Mario, I don't want to hear that shit. That new Mario. That's all that's going to matter at the end of the day. The goddamn games.
I'm going to just play it.
You know what I'm saying? That new Mario, that new Zelda.
I guess I'll buy it.
The whole debate of like, well,
reluctantly,
why do you need a new system? Well, if you don't get any kind of visual jump, then why would you buy a new system? If it doesn't offer, unless it offers some new gimmick that's.
I get it for the.
I was gonna say, did you buy a Wii?
I get it for the games. I never got it for the visual jump.
Yeah, but you're telling me that Switch, if they release a Switch in 2025 and there's zero visual change, you just
they can go to hell with that.
I'll get that day one. Like,
is it compatible?
Then
with
at that time, why would there be a new Switch? There'd have to be a reason to release new hardware.
Yeah,
because that's Switch's biggest problem at this point is its hardware,
and that's where Nintendo actually has the advantage. Is they have the most room. They're the furthest away from what they call the law of diminishing returns. They still have big returns to gain, with visuals.
Yeah, whatever they do is going to be a jump as long as it's decent.
As long as they jump.
If they did a PS4 level Switch 2, that would be a nice jump. People would be pretty happy with that. That would
be a pretty big jump for for Nintendo.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's one of those things. Like, does the hardware? They initially, the 8-bit era, obviously there was so many limitations. So 16-bit opened up a lot of avenues, gameplay wise, storytelling wise. Then 3D Mario. That was a game changer that'll never be achieved ever again. I don't care how good VR gets. Maybe if it's Ready Player One someday.
VR, I don't know. I think VR could do it.
But and ever since then, it's just been. GameCube's like, I remember Luigi's Mansion first revealed the GameCube. This dude at work, John Bricky, calls me in. dude, you got to check out the new Nintendo system. I looked at Luigi's Mansion and I said, we've already reached a level in visuals. The only quality, the only thing they can do is just add more details and add more little things and then make the environments more dense. I was already happy with the visuals based on that. Yeah. But that's if you're gonna say you don't buy a new system, mostly not I don't know about mostly, but
Rogue Squadron was like, what?
I was gonna say Rogue Squadron
for the visuals. Then why you buy a new
God.
system? Like, why would you buy a new system if there wasn't a visual leap?
Of course, you buy it for that.
You know?
But here's the thing. You don't buy it for that. You just expect that because that's what
you expect
right?
it. So if Nintendo just tried,
I'm buying it because there's games I want to play that.
If Nintendo said fuck it, we're gonna release the Switch 2. It's gonna have a slightly better screen. It's gonna have 20 hours of battery life, and
I don't think so.
Ergonomic controller, and then it just played Switch games and nothing else.
I think the next Switch is gonna have the same OLED screen that the Switch OLED has.
That should be a default.
That needs to be the baseline.
I think so.
Yeah,
I think so.
But I'm sorry that it's not just the visuals. Like it's not if I have 3 games that look like Mario Odyssey on the system, they're all gonna be great games. We know that, right? You know, but at some point, what else can they do? Like
so let me ask you this question then. Since you said everything was still the same, what if the next chip that they put in was visually wise the same as the Switch, but now we've got access to Unreal Engine 5 games?
Won't matter. I ain't gonna buy them on the Switch. You know.
Well, you bring up Mario Odyssey. It's like Mario Odyssey came out in 2017. What game performs better with the fidelity that Mario Odyssey has on Switch?
Besides Smash.
I'd say it's
since then.
As far as like a 3D game, it's the best performing. It's as far as I know, it's the only Lock 60 Switch game exclusive to Switch, because Dread didn't even hit Lock 60.
Nope, 2017, 3D, open world-ish. Obviously, it's in segments with 60 frames. I mean, that's. So, nobody has really touched that since.
I think a new 3D Mario, like we've had this debate. I don't expect night and day difference between Odyssey 2 and Odyssey 1. It's going to look better because even the ports are getting better, It's going to look better than Odyssey, but without hardware to do, whether it's visuals or whatever, more things, bigger environments, more characters on screen, better physics, whatever it is Nintendo would do with the more hardware, there's only so much you can do, like, until you run out. Like, even game developers have said, with Xbox 360, PS3, can you guys give us more? Like, we're working with this little bit of RAM. We just want more. Like, we want to make our games, whether for the better or worse, you could say, some games. Mm-hmm. But you look at The Witcher 3. Look at The Witcher 3 compared to The Witcher 2. They improved more than just the visuals. They made they just made a way better game. But the power of the systems allowed them to create that world. Right. If we're still 16-bit, how much could they have done if they never left the 16-bit era with pixels and stuff? Like, you wouldn't have all this 3D games. You wouldn't. There's so many things that were opened up. Like, I always use Breath of the Wild. The Wii wasn't running Breath of the Wild's physics engine, grass blowing in the wind, and all that. The Wii just wasn't going to do it. I don't care what you say. Xenoblade Chronicles was an impressive feat, but static, more fairly static environment, barren environment. Wii U, Breath of the Wild was not going to be on the Wii. You had to have had the Wii U's level of power and Switch's levels of power to achieve Breath of the Wild, period. There's no debate. Definitely. There's no argument. Now, there's been amazing games on those other systems. The Wii had amazing games. The GameCube had amazing games. The GameCube was ahead of the curve in the power-wise, but you just have to have those new hardware. You have to propel the games forward. Now, it's not always for the better. There's plenty of shit games that look great. Rise, Son of Rome looks great, but like Cyberpunk, I feel like that game's all looks and gameplay wise. In the first hour, I wasn't feeling it, but
I was.
Yeah, Sandstorm loved it, but
Jesus Christ.
so it doesn't matter. And I wasn't playing it with ray tracing and all that, but sometimes it doesn't make a game good. But at the other time, I just can't even imagine where we'd still be without the N64 and 3D gaming and all that. So anyway,
Oh, we have really nice looking 2D games and that ran at 60 frames and 4K,
yeah,
120 frames.
that's all I got. I don't know what else. Anybody have
That's
any
a good
final
discussion,
thoughts
man.
on the Switch 2? I mean, what do you want? I know not everybody gave their thoughts. System wise, size, you expect it to be the same? Any major
I think-
changes?
Same as
I think,
OLED.
again, the
reveal.
OLED is a good size. I think that's a good size. I prefer having my like Steam Deck size, but obviously that's a little bit bulkier. Not everybody's gonna like that. I think the OLED's a good size for everybody.
And they could increase the screen just a little bit more too.
Yeah, they could.
Surprising
bezel-
how
bezel
big of a difference that
smaller.
makes, though. That
Yeah.
not even a full inch, I don't think.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's. I was surprised. I honestly almost bought one. I still thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought
Even
it
though the
because
next game,
I just bought the tablet, like I said.
potentially the next
think
game
all
I
the
buy
other
is Tears of the Kingdom for the Switch. Like it could be that long before I buy my next game on Switch. But I still am tempted.
Yeah, what else is there?
Yeah.
Fire
I'm
Emblem.
sure I'll buy some
Fire Emblem
games
is
that I've been
January.
wanting to buy. Oh, Fire Emblem.
I'm probably gonna.
I knew there was at least one. I wasn't remembering.
I think I'm
That's
good.
quite a
I'm
length
curious if we're
between
gonna
those
get
two
another.
games.
That's why I was curious if we're gonna get another direct.
Maybe
Like,
they'll drop Advance Wars.
I mean, if
they
they
need to
if they
that
fix
game has been
Pokemon,
in like hell, bro.
if they fix
Another
Pokemon,
done. The game is
Oh
done,
yeah.
but they didn't want to drop it because of the conflict, and I get
Yeah,
that.
no, I get. Yeah, I
but-
get it.
What are you going to hold
at this
the
point,
game
just release the damn thing.
for all? Because there's always going to be conflicts.
Yeah.
I know that obviously the Reds in the game basically is Russia. I get that, but
Juice, just
You
pick
got-
up.
Call of Duty's come out every year.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what's happening in the world.
Exactly.
So you just gotta roll with it.
Pick up. Go ahead and pick up Violet. After we get this next update and DLC comes,
dude,
in, you'll
I'm-
be okay.
I'm telling you right now, it'd be February or March before you even think to see any major performance improvement.
Yeah, I need some improvement.
They need to
before I
go in and rework the code. Like that's a major. That we didn't even talk about the Ark
I want to buy it. but
Ark
I'm-
Survival, whatever. They
Oh,
reissued, they re-released,
Oh, yeah,
they
we're not
reported
doing
that
that, man.
game,
But they remade that bitch for the Switch, basically.
and it looks totally different. Like
Yeah.
it's
Yeah, it does.
it's way closer to like PS or Xbox One at least.
Was it worth the effort? Did people really care about Ark on Switch?
But it's
I'm just-
you don't have to re-buy it if you already own it. You just have to re-download that version.
Well, I know. I'm just saying, is it worth the work?
I think
put
they
in?
thought so. I mean, there's that's a lot. Their
I mean, you gotta
reputation
respect
on
the
the line.
effort.
They got a
No,
sequel coming out.
Bravo! I'm just surprised that they would even do that.
Well, here's the
Yeah.
thing that has me worried though. They paid a bunch of people to preview the build. Did it come out though? Because they had to show footage that was given to them, and as far as I know, it didn't actually come out yet. And if it did, no one was, because even Digital Foundry's video was done on the footage they were provided by, or in their hour session they were allowed to play it. So I'm a little curious, and they were, everyone played it on
For
the
what
Switch.
game?
Ark.
Ark.
But I don't think it actually released yet.
the fixed version.
Yeah, the new version.
Oh, I have no idea.
Because they all were like, yeah, we couldn't take our own footage. They gave us the footage, but I played it firsthand. And I'm like, did they pay people to lie?
Meanwhile-
Did they pay people
they
to lie? Because I don't know if
Did
that
it
ever...
release?
There's no...
The
I
fuck?
just looked it up. There's no video since that period where everybody got their preview, and there's no new footage, so obviously it didn't release.
Oh no.
Meanwhile, WrestleMania 18 still runs at 12 frames per second. That game is nasty.
Man, fuck that game. We don't talk about that game.
All right, so
I don't
this
care about that no
was...
more.
That's the old
was-
version.
Listen, sometimes we have rough times, and
That looks like
sometimes
The
we have
Witcher
good
3.
Ugh, like oatmeal on the ground.
Look at this. Look at this. So this is the new version,
Wow.
but
Wow.
it's not out yet. Look at that. That looks terrible. But they couldn't go to the same exact areas because they weren't in control. Because look at that. That is trash.
Wow, what is that?
What in the fuck?
All right, show us the
Sometimes-
fucking compare. There you go. But it's not the exact same area, so it's kind of hard to.
Yeah, but still, you can still tell.
There's still a lot of popping, but it's
Sometimes
Well,
at
that's
some
just the-
point
that's
you
just the
should
game.
this
just
looks
say
way
no.
better right here. This is without
Yeah.
a doubt. I still
Holy
dream.
crap.
I still dream of a game that I envisioned when Turok got announced for the N64.
Oh man!
Look at that
Turok.
guy. He looks stupid.
Look at that guy. He looks
Look at his
stupid.
neck. Sorry. I had, look at that. It looks ridiculous.
That looks terrible.
They announced
That's
Turok,
That's the
and
game.
in my mind,
Shoulder day.
I envisioned
How slow-
creeping
Shoulder
through
day,
foliage, pushing leaves out of the way, pushing big, tropical leaves, and seeing a raptor tail through the grass and creeping along and hunting it like it was real, and I envisioned that for the N64. And I don't even know. I think finally we're at a point, if somebody made a game like that, it would match what I envisioned back in 1996.
Oh. Yeah, Wiser Grunt. I think he's right. I think I remember seeing.
If you
RGT85
look,
video too.
everybody's was a preview build. They couldn't show their own footage, and it was all 2 months ago. There's nothing since. So let me
I don't remember.
look at.
You say all that to say we need another Dino Crisis.
I was gonna say Dino Crisis. That would be. Let's just make it happen. Come on, Capcom. Quit bullshitting with yourself.
Of course, Google's
You making all these damn remakes for Resident Evil. Where's Dino Crisis?
Right. Capcom, the biggest capper out of all of them.
Right.
Damn.
Why they call him Capcom?
Hey man, relax. Relax. They trying, kind of, sort of. What? Yeah. Yeah, something happening.
You don't think? Imagine Dino Crisis remade in RE Engine. Boy, that would be gorgeous.
True
Why you
crisis
playing?
that it hasn't been made yet.
I'm
I can't even
surprised.
find if it's out for sure yet. Let me look. I hate this cookie thing. Ark's Ultimate Survival Edition Switch has been delayed again. Oh, that's an old. Yep, now launching November 1st. Yeah, they keep pushing it. Telling
Yeah.
you, that's why I was a little skeptical.
They
let people play an early version, but now they delayed it. Even why at
So
this point? Why even
November 1st
bother?
of next year?
sweep it under the rug.
November this year is now. No, that was. Oh yeah, we're past November. So
We're in December, bro. I'm like, what you talking about?
so they delayed it.
Uh-oh, you had a grandpa moment.
Yeah, I did.
Sweep it under the rug.
So
Just
this was
call it
October.
a
So did
day.
it come out though? I couldn't find anything saying it was out.
Well, just go to the shop. Oh, that's gonna take a while. I'm sure we're trying to get out of here.
You know what? That's something that we need on Switch too. We need a faster shop. No more.
It needs to be as fast as the Wii U one was.
And the PS5 is so much better too.
We need
'cause
some
it's-
more. We need some eShop music. That's what it
We
really
need
is
some eShop music.
Anyway,
Oh,
we'll
man,
get out of here. I'm gonna
hire
figure out
me,
this
I'll make it
fucker's out.
happen.
We're gonna figure out if this version's out yet.
So let me get my beats out.
So
Get
anyway,
my beats out.
Follow us on Twitter. We'll give you the update.
thanks everybody for tuning in. Good discussion, fellas. Maybe back next week. That's the day after Christmas. We'll see what everyone's schedule's looking like.
We'll see.
But all right, we'll see you guys possibly next week or the week after. Then the game of the year will be second week in January,
Nobody going to work on Monday.
second or third Monday in January. So we'll see you then.